All right, I found that REM song. We'll end the first segment with that one.
All right.
All right, well, mic's off.
Over the long term. For information, visit wiscap.com.
Jane Matnair and Greg Bach.
Coming up next on the show, the Acme Packing Company's Paul Noonan joins us to talk sports, weather, and wine with Brittany Merlot. Don't miss it.
Matnair on air. Weekday mornings at 11.
You're listening.
The Devil's Advocates radio show is broadcast under a time brokerage agreement between Devil Radio and Civic Media, Inc. Some portions of this program may be pre-recorded. Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever, and due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the Civic Media Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
And now, here's your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. We're ready for that one.
Oh, you okay? You all right?
Happy Wednesday. I don't know if I'm okay. Yeah.
Man.
just getting loosened up, getting ready for a radio show. Dom, it was a late night at the Crute household. Many households across the Madison, Dane County, all over south central Wisconsin, southwestern Wisconsin, and up in central Wausau area, a couple of tornadoes.
Whew.
We were under constant tornado warning from like 7 o'clock on last night at my house.
Wow.
And the neighbors, not trying to make this all about me, because we came off, power barely flickered at our house, but we heard a big crash and a tree next door. And that is the third time that house has had a tree go down in the weather.
What?
I'm not sure if this one got hit by lightning or it took out the electrical lines, but the electric was taken out and there was a fire in the back. So there were fire trucks and firemen finally come to my door about 10 o'clock, and I walked across the street and looked back and tried to see. I didn't, it's stormy. I'm not going to stand out there. They keep threatening with inch or larger size hail.
Don't try to move the electric wires, Crute. Leave that to the professionals.
Well, they came to my house at 10 o'clock and they said, it's pretty dark back there and we've got some loose electrical wires. You got dogs?
Yeah. You're like, fetch, boy.
Berkeley.
Go get them. Squirrel.
The funny thing is I did let Berkeley out in the storm and he just walked out quickly and did his business and came back. But they're like, you may want to keep the dogs in.
Right.
And so anyways, looked out there, a tree down. I got just a limb across my fence. That's the worst that happened to my family. And then got a knock on the door. After the fire department, I get another knock on the door. It's one of my son's buddies, and his house has no power. He apparently has to get up for school and wants his phone charged. So he's staying at the house. And, we kept hearing the thunder and the lightning. And after midnight, it settled down. I slept like a baby. I turned on the AC last night, but there were red cherries on the window for most of the night. Fire trucks.
Reflection, yeah, always. Turn the AC on, man. What was the temperature?
Didn't matter. Too warm.
You just wanted it cold?
I wanted to sleep the sleep of a dead man. And after the stress, because I've seen tornadoes before, and once upon a time we lived my first house, the first house I built, right after I got married, my stepdaughter, Kelsey, was living with us then. And maybe we had the baby, maybe Caden was the baby, but I was living at the golf course and tornado warning went off. And I look up and there is a funnel cloud over my house. And I'm yelling to Kels and my wife, get to the basement, get to the basement. Kelsey, can I get a snack first? I'm like, get to the basement. You know, like, this is how much respect. I'm the new stepdad. And apparently well, do I have to do what you say? You know, you're like the stepdad.
Rudy, right?
No, you may not get a snack. Please go now. But when I was a kid, it scared the crap out of me. Lived on the east side of Madison. Where is that? East side, but there was a U-Haul down the road that got hit by a tornado. And you could hear the trucks getting cracked by the tornado.
Yeah, right.
We were all running for the basement, but the tornado was just up the road from us. Maybe half a mile, less than that. So I've had a few close calls, and that's as close as I want to come.
It is, yeah, certainly scary. Weren't we driving one time, Chris? We were in Madison going to lacrosse or something. It was years ago.
Yes.
And the sky was getting dark. It was an angry sea, and you were.
It was beyond dark.
Man. You were freaking out. Like, come on, man, we're fine. We'll drive around it. And man, you were having none of it. But we calmed you down, kept on our journey, and of course, nothing happened, thankfully. But yeah, you were very sensitive to the storms there, Michael.
When I worked at the TV station out of college, they used to make me go chase the tornadoes. Go, you know, like a big supercell would come through. They'd be like, go, Crute, go.
Cover it.
They'd put me in a Dodge Colt, you know, minivan looking thing, and I'd go chase tornadoes. And their greatest disappointment was when I would come back.
But did you get any videos ever, man? Or was it
I
all...
never got not of tornadoes. Now I think it'd be easier with like a cell phone. Like I went out a couple times in the yard just looking up. Like I would video it and then I would run. You know, because everybody wants to go viral.
Yeah. I don't know if it's worth it nowadays, but you know, they're the storm chasers and the storm hunters. The
I
tech
know.
and the drones and the cameras are really, really super cool. And with the drone footages now, after I think it was Iowa, it just got lambasted. Terrible tragedy.
Yeah.
People died in
Yeah.
Iowa yesterday from these storms, and you just see the line of wreckage where that tornado passed through. It's certainly a scary situation.
Rich, you had trouble getting to work today, right?
Indeed, I did. I thought I'd be here in plenty of time. And to set the stage, I'm kind of out by the nitty gritty on the west side,
Yep.
Middletonish. I'm taking the back roads to Old Sauk. And just as I come up to Old Sauk, on one side of the street is a tree, a huge tree, snapped in half, laying in the street. So half of it's blocked.
Did it happen while you were driving?
No.
Oh,
no.
just
but
clarifying.
But I did stop and take a picture of it. Then I realized that to the left, on the other side of the street, an even bigger tree was completely ripped out of the ground and laying on a house.
Ooh.
So I pulled up to Old Sauk, gonna make a left, and I saw Old Sauk was actually closed. So then I had to backtrack, and that's why I was...
University Avenue does, last time I checked, when I drove west to east, still had a tree laying in the right-hand lane.
Well, yeah, it was...
Be careful out there. There's trees jumping at you.
Right, man? Wow.
No, in Milwaukee, you guys didn't have this weather, did you?
You know, I was watching.
Glad you made it, Rich.
I was
Glad a
watching
tree didn't fall on you.
the radar, and I would project forward on the weather.com and see where the storms are saying they're going to hit. And a lot of times by the lake that, the weather changes, that they dissipate or they move around. And so I thought we'd get hit about 9:30, 10:30. And, certainly some, rain came through and whatnot, but nothing like what, South Central, Wisconsin felt, certainly Iowa, nothing to that degree, to my memory last night. I slept through it like a baby.
Wisconsin Public Radio reporting still this afternoon, Wednesday afternoon, more than 25,000 people throughout Wisconsin still without power. Still without power. I never lost the power. Just flickering. I felt we were pretty lucky. It was strong straight line winds. We got a big maple in the front. That thing was nearly bending over. Like its branches were coming to the ground.
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
My wife got the garage stall.
Yeah.
The other vehicles, my son and I have the two vehicles I currently manage. They were out in the elements, just hoping to get hit by hail.
Yeah. Any hail? I didn't see anything on our end.
I
Anything
got
on
no hail.
No.
Hail, no. We didn't get hail.
Hell to the no.
If you've got hail or tornadoes or weather stories to tell, feel free to join us today, 844-967-2789. We will eventually wind our way towards politics. But, the weather. Everyone at the water cooler today is talking about the fact the neighbor's tree fell over and started a fire, and the fire trucks were outside all day. And so suddenly you got a little drama in your life.
Maybe everyone is just you telling the story over and over and over and over again. It seems like everyone, but it's really just Crute.
Have you seen that Liberty commercial where the baby says, Liberty? How many people do you tell? 844. If you got a weather story, 844-967-2789. CJ, this is the only context in which you'd be a welcome caller. You can be our weather spotter. If we need, CJ, do I have a job for you?
Wait, isn't CJ in like Florida or something?
Tornado
it's
spotter.
season now, man. It's May. He's probably back by now.
We need CJ to be our tornado chaser.
It's a great
It doesn't
job.
pay well, but if you get that video for us, CJ.
Right. It'll go viral. I mean, you got to have something to do in between your day trading of DJT stock. And I think that's a good way to backfill it. You can get on your phone, do your trades, and, chase the storms around. I think this is a great idea. I like this idea.
I'm also a little disappointed the evidentiary portion of the Trump trial in New York. That's done. So, even my consumption of the media, a little depressing. What am I going to watch?
Well, there's like stuff going on right now, like today in Florida. The judge down there is still threatening to perhaps throw this whole thing out. There's action all over the place, man. Crute, there are politics that never, ever, ever stops. Storms may come, storms may go, but this political world in which we live, it will always be here for us.
Until they clear the lumber off both University Ave and Old Sauk Road. I think it's weather talk. Nothing but weather talk around here. And politics, maybe, but not until they get the chainsaws out. Jesse Dupree comes to mind. That's the direction we should have gone. Damn it!
Jackal.
I picked this song. Why not Jackal? Maybe we'll get there soon.
I'm back.
Folks, we're the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. It was stormy around here last night. Hope you're doing okay, you and yours. Join us. Tell the stories if you want. And I got a fine direction to go next time.
Can't wait.
Naked Bike Ride.
Oh,
It's coming to a town near you. Very important stuff.
Don't
Pivots
tell the
nicely.
Republicans they're not very fond of the naked bike race or nakedness in general, unless it's with their, paramours.
More Devil's Advocates will be right back talking weather, nakedness, and other important topics. Swag.com. You've asked for it for over a decade. We've finally gotten off our dead and responded. DevilRadioswag.com. T-shirt in Dom's favorite slimming black, white, or gray. DevilRadioswag.com. Crew necks, hoodies, coffee mugs, exclusive merchandise of the greatest radio show ever. Only at the DevilRadioswag.com, because we got bills too.
Hey folks, Stephanie Miller here. As an enlightened progressive, you know how important it is to do business in accordance with your politics. That's why Solidarity Realty is my favorite real estate firm in Madison. Solidarity Realty is a local independent realty company that lives their values. They provide outstanding expertise and protect your best interests while building community and promoting sustainability and diversity. Vive la resistance! Find them today at solidarityrealty.com. And don't forget, tell them Stephanie Miller sent you.
Do you
you like Delta 8? It'd be cooler if you did. We proudly announce the Devil's Advocates have partnered with Herbal Aspect to bring your newest Delta 8 favorites, Devil's Gummies, exclusively at herbalaspect.com. Legal for consumption by adults, they may be mailed directly to your home. Always use Devil Radio at checkout to let Herbal Aspect know where you heard them. Order today for delivery. Devil's Gummies and Devil Radio exclusive specials only from herbalaspect.com, code Devil Radio.
It's springtime in Wisconsin and our greenhouses are bursting with color. We invite you out to Kopke's Greenhouse on Sand Hill Road near Oregon. With over 3.5 acres of production space, we are the area's largest direct grower to consumer. Check us out at kopkesgreenhouse.com. That's KOPKES greenhouse.com. We are also back on the square at the Dane County Farmers Markets.
Mad Radio, WMDX, Madison's home for Nightlight with Pete Schwaba.
Bicycle, bicycle, bicycle. I want to ride my bicycle, bicycle, bicycle. I want to ride my bicycle.
And welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Happy hump day to us all. Join this political party anytime at 844-967-2789.
The party may be less political, more meteorological today. More weather-centric.
I mean,
We'll see.
how long can you talk about the weather, man? It's kind of nice and sunny right now, a little windy, but it's good to go now, baby.
Until I hear some Jesse Dupree with some chainsaw. Then I'll move on. Here is a good moving on topic. Political. You found the political side of this. The World Naked Bike Ride is back in Milwaukee this summer. Here's what you need to know, Dom.
Woohoo!
Looks like you'll only need to pack your sunscreen for the upcoming 4th annual World Naked Bike Ride scheduled in Milwaukee next month. Now they're going to have one in Madison as well. And we uncovered everything you need to know about the bike ride. Organizers put the event to reject oil dependency and also to celebrate body positivity.
I mean, a plethora of reasons for the protest.
I've always found you to be a body positivity guy, Dom. Is that the prime reason for your nakedness?
I think it's a great idea. I mean, body positivity is very important. I might have to lose a few pounds before next month if we participate, Crute, but yeah, man. I mean, people get down on themselves too. I mean, the whole thing is just too much. And, as the culture goes and as politics and religion impacts everything, I think it's great for people to have a good sense of their body and their body being accepting of theirs and other people's as well. It's a great concept and more people should embrace it.
Then why do you fat shame me so often?
Because, man, I got to counter the short jokes. I mean, it's just how it works.
The event also highlights the importance of pedestrian visibility and safe biking and pedestrian infrastructure.
Very, very visible. More visible than normal.
Now, Dominic, just for clarity's sake, participants don't have to be naked and can wear whatever they feel comfortable with. The dress code is as bare as you dare. Some participants wear body paint or underwear, while others, and I suspect this would be you, Dom, wear nothing at all.
Nothing at all.
The first recorded naked bike ride was in 2001 in Spain. By 2010, there were 74 events across the globe. And Dom, the naked bike ride in Milwaukee is scheduled for June 22nd, 2024. They will meet at a venue at noon. They don't tell you until the day before, right? And the ride starts at 4 p.m.
Oh, no, they know. They tell you where the venue is. Yeah.
In Madison, they're a little more coy about the whole start point.
Oh, really?
Maybe it's the objections from the Republicans to the nakedness, Dom. But the Fiesta Cafe in Milwaukee, 1407 South 1st Street, will kick off the bike ride. So that's where the naked people are meeting. Seems like we should be there, Dom, representing body positivity and all that kind of stuff.
Crute, you do not need to register. The event is free, but there are donation stations available to encourage outreach for the organization. And you don't even need to ride a bike to participate. You can show up at the event on rollerblades, a skateboard, or as a runner, just no cars.
Oh, see, that's where they lost me.
Organizers estimate about 200 Milwaukeeans have participated in the ride in previous years, and other cities have rallied up to 1,000 people. A good question here, Crute. Is riding a bike naked legal in Milwaukee? As the Journal Sentinel reports, nudity as a form of protest is legally protected so long as no one is engaging in any lewd, obscene, or sexual activity. Participating in the bike ride is not an illegal activity.
Well, that diminishes its allure for me as well.
But we talked about the naked bike race, of course, in Madison. The Republicans freaking out about it last time. So we posted this up on the Devil's Advocates Facebook page. If you don't like it, go do it. And some of the conservative followers that we have, there was a common reaction. Chris Nielsen posts on our Facebook page, pedophiles. Bob Ballwig, he says, or its true name is pedophiles on display. Now, I don't know what it is about you Republicans and you conservatives that think that nakedness is synonymous with pedophilia. That is, I can't even wrap my head around what kind of reach and asinine thought process you have to get to in order to think something like that. But that asinine thought process is probably some of the motivation for the Republicans to pass the law or try to pass the law to outlaw the naked bike race, Crute. This is what they did. Now, this was a Cap Times article from January 16th of 2024. Naked bike race ban passes Wisconsin Senate. They approved 2 bills that would effectively criminalize participation in Madison's version of the World Naked Bike Ride, among other events. One bill would prohibit a person from causing a minor to attend an event, quote, at which a group of adult participants intentionally expose their genitals, buttocks, or other intimate parts in a public area. It also would prohibit any photographs of minors at such events. The second measure would alter state law to allow people to be charged. They're going to allow you to be charged. Well, thank you. They allow you to be charged with a misdemeanor for the quote unquote intentional display of genitals in public, rather than the current definition of that behavior must be public and indecent, which is, of course, a higher bar. The Republicans, very, very butthurt about the fact that people are naked. We're born in this world naked, man. What is wrong with you people? Is it strictly the God? Is it the insinuation that there's nakedness, that it's pedophilia?
There it is. Jesse Dupree playing that chainsaw. Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates. And for our Madison listeners, for the 14th year, bicyclists will travel through Madison wearing their helmets and not much else. The World Naked Bike Ride is scheduled for June 15th, day after your birthday, buddy.
All right.
Now, I would not be able to make that event. Although it is a daytime event, 11 a.m., you must register, and they'll give you the address, the start point, one day in advance.
Okay.
They promise you.
I gotcha.
But that'd be the day after your birthday. But later that night, Snoop Dogg tickets, Potawatomi.
My
More
birthday
devils.
suit. I'm going to ride a bike in my birthday suit?
The day after your birthday, on your birthday hangover down. You should come down for that.
Pato, man, that's a Milwaukee concert, right?
I know. We can do both. Double header. Leave the chainsaw home.
That's the way we like it.
John and Gordy Show. Your news, conversations, and a whole lot of fun. It's all on your local Civic Media radio station or the Civic Media app.
Power outages, down trees, just a couple of the signs that Wisconsin has suffered some severe weather damage. I'm Pam Yonke with a quick update on what's happening in food and farming news on a Wednesday. If you're fortunate enough that you avoided that severe weather, you still should be prepared. What do you need to be prepared? Some advice on the way.
This is Mike. Hey, He's getting a quick haircut at the local barber school.
It's only $5. How bad can it? Oh!
Yikes. Don't be like Mike when it comes to weed control. Get the job done right the first time and plan ahead with Status Herbicide. It delivers elite corn safety and reliable performance, so you don't have to deal with more problems than you bargained for.
No!
Status Herbicide from BASF. Always read and follow label directions.
Abby Weiss, Director of Claims, says one of the best things that a farm can do is document what you've got before the storm. She said photographic pictures of equipment in a shed, the shed that it's in, and even the barn can go a long way to get your claim resolved.
Yeah, so several things that you can do around the farm to be prepared for the season. I mean, know what you have. Create an inventory of what you have and where, so that if you have a catastrophic event where you lose an entire building, or you have that in place ahead of time so that you can refer back to it and say, this is exactly what I have, or here's a video of what I had. You can also tidy up any loose ends. Is there a barn door that's been loose and you want to secure it before you have a wind event?
Abby Weiss, Director of Claims with Rural Mutual Insurance.
Time to get back in the fields again. Whether you need high-quality used equipment to get the job done, or you have planting or other farm equipment you would like to sell, Steffes Group is a nationally recognized leader in the auction business with over 60 years of experience. To find a sales representative near you, or for a list of upcoming auctions in your area and nationwide, visit steffesgroup.com. That's STEFFES group.com, your auction leader.
And we're also thinking about our specialty crop producers after the storm, like Michelle Ovens. She grows peonies in the Beaver Dam area and was getting ready to host the Wisconsin Arts and Peony Festival June 7th through the 9th. She tells us that a bad hailstorm that came through her fields in early April did substantial damage to her plants, damaging 80% of her field. That means she'll have no cut flowers to sell in 2024. If you've got a story to share with us about the severe weather that crossed Wisconsin overnight, use our Midwest Farm Report talk text line. That's 877-301-FARM. You can call it or text it. 877-301-3276. I'm Pam Yonke.
This is your hometown radio, refreshed, keeping you informed, entertained, and connected locally across the Civic Media Network.
The sunshine makes an appearance today, with high temperatures flirting with 70 degrees, alongside breezy winds whipping up to 35 miles per hour. We get a shove to some warmer temperatures, nearing 80 tomorrow with abundant sunshine. I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. Right now, it's 71 degrees.
Every business seeks an advantage, whether it's having the best location, hiring top talent, or spotting trends before they happen. And now, the United States Postal Service can give your business a new advantage. Introducing USPS Ground Advantage. Reliable and affordable 2 to 5 day package shipping. It's the advantage you need at the price you want. Get the Ground Advantage at USPS.com/advantage. The United States Postal Service, delivering for America.
Is doing it yourself not working out? Don't need the whole building for your business anymore? Call Alta's Commercial Real Estate. They'll help you find quality tenants to fill your vacancies. They market, they show, they negotiate the terms. They do all the legwork and keep you informed. Call Alta's Commercial Real Estate at 608-338-1101. 608-338-1101.
Todd Albaugh.
Hey everybody, Todd Albaugh here. Join us next time as we welcome Jeff Timmer from the Lincoln Project in, looking at the day's headlines and also what's ahead for the Republican and Democratic state conventions. Join us.
The Devil's Advocates. So relevant, they have one foot in tomorrow.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Sawing some logs out there across the state of Wisconsin. We appreciate you spending some of your time with us. And Dom, I told you there was a headline I found quite intriguing. This was breaking news at the Washington Post. And it's not in our backyard, but it's in Michigan. bird flu detected in a Michigan dairy worker.
Uh-oh.
And I find this news troubling because it's not the first time. A Michigan dairy worker has been infected with a highly virulent bird flu, the second human case in less than 2 months of the H5N1 virus circulating amongst the dairy cows. Now, when you say bird flu, isn't that supposed to be amongst the chickens?
Seemingly
You leave my cows alone.
I didn't know that. Don't we already have like hoof and mouth and other cow-related kind of disease?
Stop disparaging the cows, or I will sick the dairy.
Hey, man.
The beef and dairy industries
I
on
love
you.
the cows, man. I used to milk the cows. Ever tell you that story?
I always worry when you tell me about milking the cows that somehow you were perverse in doing so.
How can
Back
you
to
be
the
perverse in milking the cows? Man?
I don't know, but
You know,
I've
you sound
always
like a
worried.
Republican say, oh, naked bike race, that must be pedophilia. What are you talking about, man? You milking the cows. I mean, what are you, Andre Jacques having sex with the cows, man? What's wrong with you?
You just always seem a little too gleeful to tell the stories.
The hardest I ever worked.
Like locker room talk. Dom, the worker in Michigan, experienced mild eye symptoms and has since recovered, according to state officials. Public health experts said the latest indication that the virus is spreading more broadly will likely increase pressure on federal officials and the dairy industry to conduct more testing of cattle and people.
No. We do more testing, we'll find more positive results. We don't want to do that. Haven't we learned from COVID-19 and Donald Trump's philosophy on this? No more testing. Stop the testing and stop the counting of the votes as well.
A nasal swab of the worker had tested negative for influenza in Michigan, but an eye swab, when did we start taking eye swabs? From the worker was shipped to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in Atlanta, where it tested positive for H5N1, indicating an eye infection, according to the CDC. The agency said today that the second infection does not change its assessment that the risk to the general public remains low. What about those working in the dairy industry? In April, federal officials announced a dairy worker in Texas was being treated for bird flu shortly after the highly pathogenic avian influenza had been identified in U.S. dairy cattle for the first time. Researchers believe the virus had likely been circulating in dairy cattle on a limited basis for about 4 months before federal officials confirmed the disease. So it was already here. It was going on for 4 months. Then they found it. I mean, they always seem like they're playing catch up on these things, Dom. Texas worker had only experienced eye symptoms and has since recovered. The Michigan case marks only the third human case in the United States of H5N1. In 2022, a poultry worker in Colorado tested positive for the same strain of avian flu. And human illness with H5N1 bird flu has ranged from mild, infections such as eye infections to more severe illness such as pneumonia, which has resulted in death in other countries. And some government officials and public health experts have been frustrated that more livestock herds aren't being tested and that results of tests that are conducted are not being shared quickly enough. In response, the federal government in May, we're in May, right, Dom?
Yep.
Unveiled $98 million in financial incentives aimed at encouraging more testing of cattle and beefing up biosecurity protocols on farms. Love the play on words there, Dom, to control the growing outbreak. What say you, Dom? Any concerns? Someone else's problem? You're not milking the cows anymore?
My immediate question is, how does that impact the milk production? If
must
the
it be
cow
dumped?
is infected with the H5N1, does that go into the milk product? And I'm assuming pasteurization will take care of that. But, we do have a movement among some in this country for unpasteurized milk. So we'll see. I'm not clear on all that. Eye infections and, resulting death from pneumonia seems less bad than the COVID. But yeah, anytime you have, pathogens like this jumping, it's always a sense of concern.
Will it affect my steaks? In a call Tuesday with several public health organizations, a top CDC official outlined a nationwide influenza virus monitoring plan for the summer when flu activity and testing typically decline. Does it decline because you quit testing for it?
Right. Maybe.
Now, here's what our friend Jeff, who I know from neighborness when I was just a teenager, Jeff was my neighbor farmer growing up. Jeff says, eye swab, collect a little eye booger in the inside quarter of the eye. That's how you swab the eye.
Oh,
I thought he was talking about the cows.
Not the back of the eyeball. Good to know.
For all we know, Jeff could have bird flu.
If
better get tested, buddy.
Does the steak get infected? I mean, milk versus steak is at least the milk. There's more of a process. But steaks get cooked and you cook out. I mean, how does that work? Is that even possible to be?
What about my steak tartare with the raw egg on top?
With I don't know. I'm not a scientist in this regard, but again, it is concerning. But if we had 3 people in the country and but 2 of them, at least on the Washington Post article, described eye infections, that doesn't seem entirely terrible.
Jeff messages back, cough, cough. That's not funny, Jeff. For all we know, you've got the influenza, the H5N1. Hi, Devils. Sherry from Horicon says she's just checking in from Horicon, I guess. Hi, Sherry.
What's happening?
DJ in the Saw, I guess that's different from the Shaw. I'm not clear if he's up in the Wausau area or if he's from the Waukesha area. Yeah, I guess my brain's farting here. I'm all for the naked bike ride, but I'm not for cleaning the seats afterwards. Seriously, though, how bad those seats got to smell.
Yeah, that's an interesting observation. It's not great. The worst thing would be someone renting, like the bubbler bikes. You can rent the bikes. That'd be bad. Take your own bike, folks, or just do the walk. Don't use the community rented bikes.
Or DJ, do like Dom does. Take off the seat.
Right, it's a lot easier that way. And you're less likely to fall off.
844-967-2789. There are some serious politics going on. Just less trial coverage, less to engross Crute's day. It's left me wanting for more, Dom, somehow. More topics. More.
You've been
deep thought.
Just feeding yourselves at the trough of all this media, this consumption you've had, Crute. From Trump over the last 20
I've been like
days.
Cookie Monster eating at the Cohen Trump Stormy Pecker testimony.
Tapping your veins, man. To get that vein, got to need something. But does the world have to be on a cataclysmic trend for you to keep motivated, Crute? You got to have the bad, crazy Trump news all the time to keep you going.
Well, it helps. It's motivating. Yeah. I do find it motivating. The Trump trial, I have found entirely motivating. I'm not entirely married to, I think Matt Flynn, our fine guest yesterday, said he thought there would be a conviction. And I'm less convinced. Although I'm not a criminal litigant. I've been a criminal, but never a criminal litigant, like Matt was for 40 years.
Hey man, don't discount your experience there, Crute. Don't body shame yourself.
Oh, bro. I've been in court plenty of times. They called me defendant. I wouldn't have perceived that as cataclysmic news. That was just news that I, through my Crute mass consumption engorgement on the media, that I could then come and give it back to the audience because they have to work. They have to earn a living.
Filter, yes.
So I could be your coffee filter, if you will, Dom. But now there's less coffee going in the filter, and I find myself wanting for more Java, apparently. Although I'd never drink this stuff.
Oh, come on, man! You've had your Irish coffees.
Oh yeah, I guess I do. Yeah. But only with whiskey in it.
And
a little whipped cream on the top.
I was gonna say, do they put milk in there or cream? How did you have your Irish coffee?
little whipped cream just to show my masculinity.
got a little on your nose yet. Crute, I think Matt Flynn, I'm with him, man. Here's the thing. I know you're going through a little bit withdrawal right now. I know it's been a tough couple of days, right? It's winding down. We don't.
I do have the shakes.
Yeah. No. Tuesday, we know that there's going to be closing arguments starting. The charging decisions will tell the jury what to do. Closing arguments will happen. All that, and then they'll go and decide whether or not Donald Trump is guilty as charged. Now, it's very possible that by the end of the week, as Matt said, and I would concur, it's totally possible.
End of next week.
Guilty.
That's not soon enough, Daddy.
He could be guilty by the end of next. Well, my concern is not what Trump does or what. Crute, if he's guilty, what are you going to get all riled up on it then? What's going to be the next thing to keep feeding that vein, man?
Well, I'd find it. I'd find it. But I'm telling you, I am quite concerned that Trump is not going to be found guilty. And it's not that I live on the adrenaline of Trump's misdeeds, but, I am desperately seeking accountability for this man, justice for the American people. And, this is not the case I would have picked. And you know that, Dom. You know I don't want to be fighting about hush money payments to a porn star. That is not... Although it is fun to talk about on the radio sometimes, the gravity of the alleged crimes. I mean, Michael Cohen was alleged with greater crime, larceny, than the cooking of the books that Trump is alleged with.
Oh, it's not just the cooking of the books, of course. It's the withholding of the information that the American people could have used to make a more informed decision as to who they would vote for the presidency. That's the election interference part. That's his origin story. This is, Trump's first foray into messing with elections. So
I've heard this from the right, but answer me this in all truthfulness. I'm not just trying to play devil's advocate here, but I'm trying to understand, where is the crime in that? What is the crime? If I was running for higher political office and I got some skeletons in my closet, I do, Dom, maybe not Trump-like, no allegations of rape, but, let's say
convicted of civilly liable being of rape. Yep. Continue.
But let's just say I'm running for office and I had some outstanding personal debts, or, I had a bad relationship with a woman and I wanted to pay her off. I didn't want her to go public with that information. Well, that is information that's negative towards me. But my simple act of signing an NDA or entering into some sort of a financial arrangement that not be made public, well, it might seem distasteful.
Well, in and of
it's
itself,
not illegal in and of itself.
Of course it's not illegal.
But that's information hidden from the American public.
But that's it's the other circumstances around it. I can walk into a bank and walk out with money. If I take it out of my own account through my ATM, then it's legal. If I walk out of it and I rob the bank, take it out, I walk out with money, doesn't mean that it's not a crime.
But the only financial crime here, so bank being a bad analogy, unless you're talking about the theft of Michael Cohen from the Trump organization, which he is not charged with, and probably has more gravity to the outcome.
This happened after the Access Hollywood tape. As the testimony came out, as Hope Hicks testified and other more credible people testified to the circumstances of the campaign. They blew up that campaign when that happened. They did every effort. They brought up the second time the Stormy Daniels deal because he iced it the first time. These were very specifically done in terms and in the context of keeping this information in the middle, at the end of an election cycle. If you decided to go pay off whoever you did need to pay off right now and ran for office in 2 years, no big deal, man. You can sign a contract. You can make.
So the crime is in the timing?
A contract for murder doesn't make it a legit contract, doesn't make it right.
But paying off someone to not tell your story is quite different than murdering someone, man. Stop using these broad analogies.
It'd be cooler if you did. We proudly announce the Devil's Advocates have partnered with Herbal Aspect to bring your newest Delta 8 favorites, Devil's Gummies, exclusively at herbalaspect.com. Legal for consumption by adults, they may be mailed directly to your home. Always use Devil Radio at checkout to let Herbal Aspect know where you heard them. Order today for delivery. Devil's Gummies and Devil Radio exclusive specials only from herbalaspect.com. Code Devil Radio.
Hey, Dom, how many palindromes can you name in 30 seconds?
Race car, mom, dad, reefer, kayak, level. Did I say mom already?
You're forgetting one really important one.
Zero res.
Not only is it the coolest palindrome ever, it's also our favorite.
Right, I remember. Why is that again?
They advertise with us.
Zero res, my favorite palindrome.
And carpet cleaner. Get the best carpet cleaning ever. Schedule your carpet cleaning online at zeroresmadison.com. Tell them the Devil's Advocate sent you.
DevilRadioswag.com. You've asked for it for over a decade. We've finally gotten off our dead and responded. DevilRadioswag.com. T-shirt and Dom's favorite slimming black, white, or gray. DevilRadioswag.com. Crew necks, hoodies, coffee mugs, exclusive merchandise of the greatest radio show ever. Only at the DevilRadioswag.com, because we got bills too.
Family Talk with Straight Talk.
You give and you give. It's time to get with Straight Talk Wireless. You get a reliable 5G network and unlimited data, and you get to choose who joins your family plan starting as low as $25 a line. Does it have to be family? It can be family or people you like.
Get more lines and more savings. Switch to Straight Talk for family plans starting as low as $25 a line per month for 4 lines. Find us at Walmart and StraightTalk.com. For network management practices, visit StraightTalk.com. Family plan discount with 4 lines, all on the Silver Unlimited plan. Taxes and fees apply.
Mad Radio.
%60 of the time, they're right every time. The Devil's Advocates.
Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Love it when you join the political party. Talk or text. You can do so at 844-967-2789.
I know that Jeff is listening because he messaged me to say, I'm listening. But what I missed from Jeff, still without power since about 8:45 last night, taped the refrigerator door closed so we don't let the heat in.
Yeah. Might have to cook that bacon, just saying. Gas still works, right?
Well, if you got a gas stove, if Joe Biden didn't come and steal your gas stove from you, maybe you do. Now, back to this thought, just seeing if we can maybe bring conclusion to my modest depression, because this is not the bite of the apple I wanted for the American people.
Certainly.
And I don't even clearly see the crime of trying to pay off someone despite the timing. I get the timing. I understand the timing.
That's to influence the election, right? I mean,
Well,
what was the purpose?
so would every press release. So, I mean, that is really a stretch.
No, it's really not. How is it? I mean, if that story
To
were
try
to come
and
out,
suppress bad information about myself that might make the voters think less of me. Candidates do that constantly, dude. Every time they do it, is it voter suppression? Is it electioneering? What is it if some guy who's running for office tries and do an NDA? Is that always an election crime? I don't see how it is. The simple
if you're
act of
engaged
paying
in
off a porn
NDA,
star.
the NDA is to shield information from the public while you're actively.
Of course, that's why you sign a non-disclosure.
He paid off Stormy Daniels that $130,000 transfer from his fixer from Cohen happened 12 days before the election, man.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, I mean, what?
Yes.
Yes. You
He
don't find that
paid
problematic.
someone-
You don't think that there's specifically laws about that. That's what in his effort to do so, then he also altered, fraudulently entered those on his book.
That's not my question. I'm not questioning whether or not he cooked the books. That was clear. Obviously, this was to pay off Michael Cohen, a reimbursement, and they doubled it up in taxes and juiced it up, and then Cohen stole some money out of the mix. That I don't question whether or not that has been established as facts or crimes. Misdemeanor, standing on their own.
Yes.
But the underlying crime, the crime that's being alleged, that would bump all 34 of those charges.
Interference crime, the election interference portion of the charge is what you're.
Is it a campaign finance violation? Which part of it is the crime? Because I'm not convinced that paying off a porn star or anyone else with an NDA attached, I'm not sure that in and of itself is a crime.
Why does the NDA? Why does the NDA matter? Why do you keep saying that?
Well,
what if he just gave someone a bag of money without an NDA? Would that matter? You keep saying the NDA. Why is that relevant?
Because the whole NDA was so she wouldn't talk about it before the election, right? That's what she was being paid off to do. Is keep her mouth.
Signed it, right? Okay.
Okay, is that a criminal act?
And then she got released from it, right? And then they ended up paying her, and then he got reimbursed. And what was the point? So I guess yes.
I'm asking where the election crime is. Clarify, because what you're describing is not a crime in and of itself, standing on its own. The FEC didn't charge. The federales didn't charge. What was the election crime?
The federale, you mean like the Southern District of New York? They didn't charge, right? And why?
Yeah, I know. Bill Barr, the original catch and kill.
Oh, okay,
but I'm not talking about the Stormy Daniels. I'm talking about what they're trying to link together with the 34 misdemeanors to bump them all up to felonies. And they're saying under, I know it's the state court in New York, but they're saying under federal election law, this is a crime. And I heard the former director of the FEC say, no, it's not. Not to his legal opinion. So I am left scratching my head, wondering what part of paying off a porn star to not talk makes it a crime. Well, cooking the books, but that's the separate charge. That's the 34 misdemeanors. What bumps it into a felony?
It gets bumped into the felony because it would have been a misdemeanor for the election violation.
I hear you, Alvin Bragg. I'm just not buying it.
Oh, okay. I mean, I don't have the New York statute in front of me or the federal statute that would discuss specifically what the number is and how that is. He's alleged that in court. That's the point. It's not the individual. It's a misdemeanor on the election side. It's a misdemeanor on the booking side. When you do both, when you do the booking side to cover up the other misdemeanor, that's when it can be charged as the felony. I don't know what to tell you, man.
You know, there is actually being pondered in the charging instructions whether or not the jury has to unanimously decide what the other crime is. Like, do they believe it's the federal election crime? Do they believe this crime perhaps happened? Could they check a box and describe which crime they think might have actually bumped this up to the level where these are not misdemeanors, but indeed felonies? And I think the prosecution's really got a problem when they're discussing which one of the crimes do you think this guy is alleged to have committed? When that's part of the charging directive, when they're still discussing this in court, that leaves me wondering whether or not there's an underlying crime that's clearly been proven to the jury. Because I don't think it's the simple act of paying off Stormy Daniels. That in and of itself, before the election, 12 days, 14 days, I get the timing. That's why you're paying her off, because you don't want the information to come out. Paying off a bad story about yourself in and of itself is not a crime. Even if you're running for office, that is not a crime in and of itself.
Really? I think you might be wrong there, Michael. I think you're wrong. And we'll have to maybe dig into it, perhaps get some attorneys, some people smarter than me. But I don't think that's accurate. If that were not to be the case, Curdy, then why would Alvin Bragg bring this case? Are you telling me then it's strictly political? Of course he did it. He did it for the reasons to keep it out of the news, so it would not impact negatively his election process, his chances. That's why he did it, right? Do you think that's why he did it? I just want to know where do you think Trump's head was here? Is that why he did it, or is it for Melania?
Well, it wasn't about Melania.
Coming up next on the show, the Acme Packing Company's Paul Noonan joins us to talk sports, weather, and wine with Brittany Merlot. Don't miss it.
Matt and Air on air, weekday mornings at 11.
Hey, Darcy, I just saw the perfect house. Can you help me write an offer on it?
I'd be happy to, Brian. Did you see it at an open house?
No, I just called a sign and had the agent show it to me. I didn't want to bug you.
Right. How many times have you heard me say don't call the sign?
All of them.
You called the agent working for the seller, and once you see the property with that agent, I'm no longer free to write an offer on it.
So
you need to hire us from the beginning, help you find the right home, negotiate on your behalf, and protect your interests all the way through the process, and it shouldn't cost you a dime.
Solidarity Realty. They're real, they're solid, and they're honest. Find them at solidarityrealty.com.
You can always continue the conversation on social media. Share your thoughts when you find and follow Civic Media on Facebook, X, and Instagram. You're listening to Mad Radio, WMDX 1580 AM Columbus, W224EG Madison, and always streaming on the Civic Media app.
ABC News, I'm Brian Clark. The CDC's confirmed a second case of a bird flu in a person, this one in Michigan, and like the prior case in Texas, the patient a farm worker as bird flu moves through dairy cattle. The symptoms are mild, and officials say there is still a low risk to the public. A hearing in former President Trump's classified documents case grew heated. ABC's Stephen Portnoy says the judge was being asked to dismiss the case.
The attorney for Trump body man Walt Nauta argued his client was being punished for his failure to cooperate with the investigation. Prosecutor David Harbaugh called that a garbage argument. Nauta is accused of helping move documents around Mar-a-Lago after investigators came calling. Never-before-seen security images of Nauta with boxes in hand were unsealed in court papers this week.
As President Biden hosts the president of Kenya, a federal judge in California has granted his son Hunter's request to delay his federal tax trial to September. His trial on gun charges is still set for next month. This is ABC News.
This news report is sponsored by Wisconsin Capital Management, LLC, serving their clients for 40 years. Visit wiscap.com.
For Civic Media News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. People across Wisconsin are waking up to power outages, downed trees, and other storm damage. In the Madison area, more than 40,000 people lost power. In Green Bay, roofs were ripped off buildings. A few thousand are without power this morning in the Eau Claire area. This list just goes on and on. While there were tornado warnings throughout the evening, straight-line winds are often responsible for the majority of this kind of damage. You'll want to leave yourself extra time as you drive the kids to school or head into work. And the Poet Laureate of the United States will be here in Wisconsin Thursday. Ada Limon was given the title in 2022. This is part of a series hosted by the Wisconsin Academy of Sciences, Arts, and Letters. She'll be speaking at the Overture Center's Playhouse at 7, and tickets are still available. If you're not near Madison, there are watch parties statewide in Ashland, Eau Claire, Sheboygan, Verona, and Viroqua. For Civic Media, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. Here's what you need to know closer to home. This is news from WMDX Madison. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. Depending on where you are here in Madison, some parts of the city are kind of a mess. There are down power lines and trees, all because of last night's storms. Madison Gas and Electric says it'll take days to restore power to every customer. The utility says 42,000 people lost electricity at some point. Luckily, that number has dropped so far today. Staff there say there are more than 250 separate incidents that now need fixing. MG&E is reaching out to other groups that can help restore power so they can just have more people in the field. A reminder, never touch down power lines. Call MG&E to report it. Doesn't happen too often that kids get a day off of school because of weather, and it's not for snow. Madison schools were closed today because school officials said it wasn't safe or even possible to get to some schools. And that's what you need to know. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. This is WMDX News.
A full house for Packers OTAs. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens. The Packers with nearly perfect attendance for voluntary organized team practices. Matt LaFleur asked how much credit should be given to Jordan Love for being present despite he has not been offered a new contract yet.
It's everything to us. I think if you look at our attendance here, and we've had almost 100% the entire offseason, which has been the best that we've had since I've been here. And I always think that when you look around the league, when your quarterback's there, just naturally has a way of attracting everybody to come.
Jordan Love says he's working on being a vocal leader.
Talk to guys more, being in guys' ear a little bit more, and just trying to focus on being a better leader. Get with these relationships with guys in here, it gets easier.
Baseball, the Brewers came back to win 7-5 last night in Miami. It seemed as if the Crew had a lot of leadoff batters get on base.
Yeah, I think both teams did today, to be honest with you. We had opportunities, and you can't squander those opportunities usually and win.
That's Brewers manager Pat Murphy. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
Enjoying this local program? Find the complete Civic Media lineup at civicmedia.us or the Civic Media app.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. A stray storm or two this evening, otherwise mostly clear and a low in the low 50s tonight. Sunshine for tomorrow, maybe a late day storm and a high in the mid-70s. More rain possible Thursday night and Friday. The wind starts to pick up as well. High temperatures in the mid-70s. It's 71 right now.
This is Chad Spade for Chad's Design Build. We're proud to employ some of the best carpenters and remodeling professionals in our industry. Are you honest and hardworking? Do you love to improve people's lives by improving their homes? Chad's Design Build offers excellent compensation and benefits focused on outstanding customer service, professional design, construction management, and craftsmanship, all in a nurturing, positive workplace. Whether you're thinking about remodeling your home or considering joining our team, go to chadsdesignbuild.com to learn more.
Wisconsin Capital Management in Madison is a registered investment advisory firm and has been serving their clients for the past 40 years. The firm is focused on providing investment advisory services to its affiliated mutual funds. Their approach to investment management is designed to provide competitive performance over the entire business cycle. Their clients rely on them to manage their assets through the fluctuations of market cycles, and they strive to outperform over the long term. For information, visit wiscap.com.
Todd Albaugh.
Hey everybody, Todd Albaugh here. Join us next time as we welcome Jeff Timmer from the Lincoln Project in, looking at the day's headlines and also what's ahead for the Republican and Democratic state conventions. Join us.
The Todd Albaugh Show. The Devil's Advocates radio show is broadcast under a time brokerage agreement between Devil Radio and Civic Media Inc. Some portions of this program may be pre-recorded. Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever, and due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the Civic Media Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
And now, here's your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Wednesday edition. And Dom, I've got a lead for this hour, but I feel like we've got to let the new joiners in on what we've been talking about. We've been talking about the hush money trial, the voter deception trial, and the fact that Trump is charged with 34 felonies, and that is because he covered up the payments to Stormy Daniels. And I don't think there is doubt in the panel about whether or not that's been proven. Is there doubt? Are we, there's no contention over that point. The contention I have with you, apparently, opinion-wise, Dom, is whether or not the other crime, the thing that bumps it from a misdemeanor to a felony, has been proven. And if you, and I'm sure you've looked this up, Dom, the lawyers, the prosecution stated that there was a federal crime that basically Trump broke federal campaign laws, right?
Correct.
Isn't that what's being alleged? And it's not up to the prosecution to specifically prove that crime, because that crime is not charged in the state courts. But they do have to somehow put a bow on this, make the jury understand that this is involved. This is why these misdemeanors become felonies. And I'm not sure that they've effectively proven the federal crime.
Well, I'm not. Okay, let's back up a minute. Michael Cohen went to jail, right?
Yes.
And for one of the reasons he went to jail was for campaign finance violations, correct?
I would need clarity on that.
The Federal Election Campaign Act of 1971, right? The Election Act regulates the influence of money in politics. At all times relevant to the information, the Election Act set forth the following limitations, prohibitions, and reporting requirements that were applicable to Michael Cohen, the defendant, individual one, and his campaign. Now, this is the actual court document. This is the original United States District Court, Southern District of New York, charging document against Michael Cohen. List out, the first five, bank and those kinds of things. Counts 1 through 5, evasion of assessment of income tax, liability, false statements to a bank. What else are there? False statements, more false statements to banking, and they get down to the campaign finance violations. And
okay, clarify that point, please.
Individual contributions to any presidential candidate, including expenditures, coordinated with the candidate or his political committee are limited to $2,700 per the election, and presidential candidates and their committees prohibited from accepting contributions from individuals in excess of this limit. Corporations are prohibited from making contributions directly to presidential candidates. On or about, June 16th of 2015, individual one, Trump, began his presidential campaign. While Michael Cohen, the defendant, continued to work at the company, did not have a former title, but he had an email address with the campaign. At all times relevant, a Corporation One, the media company. Now, this is the catch and kill portion of it. The magazine, the chairman, we know this now. Pecker worked with Cohen to catch and kill these deals, consistent with the agreement between Peckerman and Cohen and the defendant, the defendant. Negative stories during the course of the campaign. Cohen, with the assistance of Pecker, was able to arrange for the purchase of 2 stories to suppress them from and prevent them from influencing the election. Knowing the story would be of considerable value because of the election, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Election. So Michael Cohen went to jail in part because of federal election campaign violations. He did that as a proxy for Donald Trump. So, and Donald Trump reimbursed him plus for that. And then, Cohen took another 30 or 60 grand on top of that. But and he's a proxy. If my point, if Michael Cohen, the attorney, the fixer, the proxy, went to jail for that crime, isn't that then the crime? That's the underlying crime. Yes. Election violation. Dude went to jail for it already, man. So,
well, he pled guilty to a multitude of crimes, and I don't doubt your rationale or your reasoning, but this is not the Michael Cohen trial. This is the Donald Trump trial.
Certainly.
And the prosecution has to prove that Donald Trump committed these same acts, these same crimes.
Yes.
Well, we know that Cohen and Pecker did the catch and kill on what's her face, Karen McDougal, the playmate.
Yep.
And we know that Pecker killed the doormans, the $30,000
doorman. Correct. Yes.
And Michael Cohen put up $130,000, which he allegedly was reimbursed for, which he, depending on whether or not you believe the story. But guess what? None of those people are Donald Trump. Specifically, they're David Pecker and they're Michael Cohen that made those specific deals. Now, you've got to make some leap from, well, of course, they were doing so for the boss, right?
Of course, yes.
Of course, that would be our logical conclusion. But how do you bridge that gap? How do you make that stick? How do you make it believable that this was not the independent act?
About the specific concerns they had about the election. You bring in Hope Hicks. You bring in David Pecker. You bring in the financial records. You bring in the record where the CFO says this is how it's breaking down. This is what
was the CFO in court. I didn't see.
He was not. No,
I didn't see him. I didn't see Keith Schiller. In fact, I didn't see anyone clearly tie Donald Trump to that specific crime, except for Michael Cohen, who got caught in a lie, perhaps, and certainly confessed to stealing through the very same
but that's
transaction.
Irrelevant to the case. The only thing that would happen to do is maybe the jury would
I just don't think they proved it, Don.
That they would consider that when they judge his character.
I don't think they've proven that beyond a reasonable doubt to 12 jurors.
Now you're going into your opinion of what you don't think they've proven. Your question was, what is the underlying crime that makes 2 separate misdemeanors
that they've proven?
Felony? The underlying crime, of course, Crute, is the campaign finance violation, the very crime that Cohen already went to jail for. So, yes, it is a crime to do those things. He went to jail for it. Donald Trump did those things through Pecker and Cohen, man.
Didn't
we
already
have to prove? You got to prove the link between Donald Trump, Pecker, and Cohen, and all the other people involved. And
what about John Edwards? He was convicted on this, right? No, he was not. He was vindicated on this very same set of allegations.
Donald Trump and Pecker and Cohen. And you talk about who's not who. We're talking about this case. And now, so my answer to you is Federal Election Campaign Act of 1971. That's what was violated. That's what Cohen went to jail for. That is the underlying crime that allows for the bump up to the felony. Now, you can argue about whether or not the prosecutor did a fine job in articulating the circumstances in which Donald Trump engaged and helped to make this happen, and that's for the jury to decide. But now you have your answer. You're welcome.
It's an insufficient answer. It doesn't convince. It's an non-convincing answer.
Went to jail for it, man. Come on. Are you kidding me?
Well, I'm convinced Cohen's guilty. 844-967-2789. Let's go to the phones. Gerald, I understand you're an attorney, sir, and I suspect you have an opinion. Let us have it.
Hello, Gerald.
My opinion is that Dom is correct and you don't understand the case. With all due respect, this involves not federal election fraud law, but New York State election fraud law. That's the difference between this and the Cone case.
But Gerald, my understanding is that's not what is being alleged. He was charged in the state courts, no doubt. But the crime that they're alleging that is the bump up from the misdemeanor to the felonies is a federal crime.
No, you're just wrong on that.
Dom, you just read it to the man, did you not?
I read the federal crime from the Cone, that he was prosecuted by the SDNY. The SDNY did not choose to prosecute Trump.
So, Gerald, you're saying they're not alleging the same underlying crime that Dom just thought he hit a home run with?
A state version of the federal crime, Gerald. Is that accurate?
That's right. Yes. And actually, the intent to falsify, to commit fraud, which is the first crime, with the intent to commit election fraud is the basis of this case. And of course, none of us know what the final result will be. It's based on a factual assessment by the jury.
Yeah.
But Dom does understand the case correctly. And
do you think that's been proven, sir? Because I listened to every day of the testimony, and I watched the transcripts as they were coming out live. And you think they proved the underlying crime that bumps it from a misdemeanor to a felony. And you think they connected Donald Trump clearly to that crime?
I do, but it's going to be up to the jury, 12 people, to listen to look at the transcripts, go over their notes, to do a methodical deliberation of all the evidence, which includes 20 witnesses, including Michael Cohen, and then to look at what Robert Costello said, which was the defense case, along with one paralegal, and to listen to the instructions of Judge Merchan, and finally come to an application of the law to the facts to decide whether he was guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
Gerald, as I understand it, the prosecutors actually put 3 potential crimes out there. They didn't even land on a singular crime. And as they are going through, and I'm just going on some of the reporting I've seen today, as they're still trying to figure out what the charge to the jury will be with the judge and the plaintiffs and the prosecutors and the defendant's attorneys are arguing about what are we going to do, a check the box, what the crime is. If this was laid out so specifically and clearly as you and Dom seem to think, sir, why would we be going through this in jury instructions?
Jury instructions always involves a contest between the sides.
Sure,
in terms
that part
of
I understand, Joe.
Analyzing what the appropriate way to instruct the jury is. Judge Merchan listened to both sides about their views on the instruction and has made some decision, but is going to articulate what his decisions are tomorrow, we expect.
Gerald, do you think there should be a unanimous decision from the jury on what the underlying crime that bumps up this from a misdemeanor to a felony?
Yes, but New York law doesn't even require that the second crime be proved beyond a reasonable doubt. It requires that that be proved to be the reason for the initial fraud. And
excellent explanation, Gerald. I'm sure there's more you'd like to tell us, but we're out of time for now. More Devil's Advocates. Come right back.
Solar panels on your office building. Since when are real estate brokers so concerned about the environment?
Crute, you should know that at Solidarity Realty, we provide outstanding real estate service while adhering to our core progressive values. Environmental sustainability is a big part of that.
So you really walk your talk, huh?
Yeah, I even walk to work.
Come on, always?
Well, sometimes I bike, and if I have an appointment across town, I use my solar panels to charge my plug-in.
Solidarity Realty. They're real, they're solid, and they're honest. Check them out at solidarityrealty.com. Do you like Delta 8? It'd be cooler if you did. We proudly announce the Devil's Advocates have partnered with Herbal Aspect to bring your newest Delta 8 favorites, Devil's Gummies, exclusively at herbalaspect.com. Legal for consumption by adults, they may be mailed directly to your home. Always use Devil Radio at checkout to let Herbal Aspect know where you heard them. Order today for delivery. Devil's Gummies and Devil Radio exclusive specials only from herbalaspect.com, code Devil Radio.
Hey, Brad from Zero Res Madison here. What's the best way to clean your carpet? Well, not surprisingly, it's the same way you clean your clothes. You wouldn't clean a dirty shirt by running a white cloth over the top of it, nor would you try to get it clean by sprinkling chemicals and rubbing it in. For a real clean, you need hot water, agitation, and a cleaning agent, just like your laundry. For a fresh, healthy clean with no residue, call Zero Res Madison or schedule online. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward, it's the right way to clean.
DevilRadioswag.com. You've asked for it for over a decade. We've finally gotten off our dead and responded. DevilRadioswag.com. T-shirt in Dom's favorite slimming black, white, or gray. DevilRadioswag.com. Crew necks, hoodies, coffee mugs, exclusive merchandise of the greatest radio show ever. Only at the DevilRadioswag.com, because we got bills too.
You're listening to the radio show your mother warned you about, The Devil's Advocates.
Yeah, thank you for listening to the Devil Advocates radio show. Join the political party on the lines or texting at 844-967-2789.
Tom, I want to reference reporting at Politico. I want to quote my source clearly and accurately. This was updated on May 13th of 2024, and we're talking about the charges, and they talked about the strengths of the case and the weaknesses of the case. And here's what Politico says is a weakness of the case, and this would seemingly contradict what Gerald just said. Elevating the business records charges into felonies by linking them to an underlying federal election violation. Now, that's what you said, Dom, but Gerald said, no, they're state charges. Not to my understanding. They're trying to say that a federal charge is the reason the state charges bump from misdemeanors to felonies. And that, according to Politico, is a novel legal theory, meaning hasn't been used before, that would test the interaction of state and federal laws. And I have no doubt that Michael Cohen was convicted on that and multiple other crimes, although even in the testimony he gave, he was still refuting whether or not he was guilty of all the crimes that he pled guilty to. I know he was charged and convicted because he pled guilty to the federal elections crimes, along with tax evasion and some other stuff that had nothing to do with Donald Trump. Sort of a catch-all. They said they'd charge his wife. He did also testify to that fact. It was plead guilty or they're going to charge his wife with tax evasion. And he said that's why he did it. So I'm not saying he didn't commit that crime. I'm just saying his motivation as related during his testimony in the Trump, Trump trial was basically he wanted to keep his wife out of prison. This was his criming, not his wife. So anyways, I'm not saying that's not what was proven. That's what he pled to. He was convicted on the federal crime. The federal crime, which is not clearly alleged, but is spelled out by the prosecutors, is a federal crime which bumps state charges up to felonies if they've proven it, which Gerald, and I do understand Gerald, they don't have to prove the underlying crime. They didn't even charge the federal crime, right? They don't even have jurisdiction to charge the federal crime. But you've got to convince that jury that you've met that standard or the felonies don't hold up.
Certainly. I mean, you have to convince the jury regardless. So that's why we're here. Let me ask you this, Curdy. I mean, I get the point, but do you think it should be illegal for people to engage in this kind of behavior to keep information from the public in the midst of their own election. I mean, it violates the limits.
Is it okay if it's
limits
to keep your stock value from plummeting because some bad news might get out to corporate America about your actions, some employee, some allegation against the boss?
Those are different laws. I mean, they're talking about campaign laws, not publicly traded. Is it privately traded? Is it publicly traded? I mean, there's talk about bad analogies, man. That's got nothing to do with campaign finance violations.
But my point is, I'm trying to make the analogy, Dom, that simply paying someone off to keep their mouth shut, an NDA, is well established under the law, right?
Sure.
In a business context, that's perfectly acceptable, which would have a financial motive, which could be things like stock price. But you're telling me that if the same interaction happens during an elective campaign, that must be paid for with donor money? I mean, what if it's not a contribution? What if the private party reimburses a guy for making the payment? Doesn't want to be embarrassed, makes the payment, gets reimbursed by the boss. Is that in and of itself a crime? Well, when you go and commit the secondary crime of claiming it on your taxes falsely, that becomes a bookkeeping crime, which I have no doubt that's been proven.
If it's on the books and was pled guilty to by Cohen, obviously that's a crime. Yes,
he was differently motivated.
But the motivation is irrelevant to this, man. You could pay someone to do what? Really? So, okay.
When you give a catch-all of 5 different crimes and also say you're going to charge the wife and throw her in prison, the guy says, okay, I'll plead to everything.
Prosecutor squeezing a defendant. Okay, yes, and?
That doesn't mean you've proved the same crime against the next guy.
The crime that Cohen pled guilty to, he was a proxy for Trump in that regard, Crute. They violated campaign finance laws, period. That's it. You can pay someone. The circumstances could be different. You pay someone to keep their mouth shut, or you can bribe someone. Both of those things, an NDA or a bribery, can be considered, well, I'm just giving money to someone to do what I want them to do. In one circumstance, it could be a totally legit NDA. And the other one, it could be considered bribery. So it depends on the circumstances and the laws.
And what draws the distinction for you, Dom?
The fact that in this particular case, the fact that the guy, Donald Trump, was running for president, pulled the trigger, did this transaction after Hollywood, yada, yada, yada. We know the backstory, man. They revived this thing. They made a point to it that was specifically to impact the election. Are you going to tell me that you don't believe for a minute that Donald Trump and this whole catch and kill scheme was started in 2017, man? This was what they were going to do. And then comes out.
But it's not the action of suppressing the information. That in and of itself is not a crime. You can suppress bad information about the candidate. That is not a crime.
You can't pay more than $2,700. If the effort is to do that and you pay more than $2,700
is Stormy, is she running? Is that a campaign contribution to Stormy?
Is it it's a campaign contribution to Trump.
Well, you've done a better job of tying that together than I feel like the prosecutors did.
I guess I missed my calling. 844-967-2789. Mark from the SAC, you are up. What are your thoughts today?
Yeah, and part of this here is didn't Donald Trump book those as business expenses rather than personal expenses, using the money from his company to pay off these things, which clearly is unless the company's actually paying, that they consider that a business expense to pay off the major stockholders' misdeeds. I mean, that's part of this as well. I mean, that the whole purpose was to deceive. From start to finish, the whole purpose was to deceive and end.
Trump was willing to pay her cash. Trump made the statement. He's on the tape saying, let's pay cash. Cohen said, no. I got a different plan.
Well, if he's on tape saying paying cash, then that clearly indicates he wanted to cover.
Is there something illegal
up.
about paying cash? If Donald Trump had made a direct $130,000 cash payment to Stormy Daniels, I don't think there's any crime.
That had to be federally reported, though, because that kind of cash flowing back and forth, at least in drug crimes, they bust people in drug crime.
It's a business transaction.
This is your local Civic Media radio station. Want to hear even more? Anytime? Find all of it at civicmedia.us.
For Civic Media News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. A U.S. House committee takes up the bipartisan Kids Online Safety Act this week. Parents of children harmed by social media say greater protections are badly needed and long overdue. Deb Schmill's daughter died of an accidental overdose after she was bullied online.
It's going to be very upsetting to the parents, to so many people in this country who want to see this happen. They want to see big tech regulated. They don't want to see kids dying every day.
Tech companies are fighting sweeping change, citing free speech rights. All over Wisconsin, this year's Click It or Ticket campaign is underway. Memorial Day weekend is our unofficial start of summer, and every year, agencies and departments increase patrols around this time. All drivers and passengers are required by Wisconsin law to wear seatbelts while they travel. Click It or Ticket runs through June 2nd. For Civic Media, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. Here's what you need to know closer to home. City of Madison staff say there were more than 90 roads blocked due to storm damage this morning. There were many more on the west side than on the east side. Crews got to work right away, starting with the busiest streets like Regent Street and Washington Avenue, both East Wash and West Wash. The City of Madison has a list of streets that are currently blocked by storm debris. You can find that list on cityofmadison.com. It's one of the top things right in the middle. Meanwhile, a local veterans group is asking for help setting up their Memorial Day display. Every year, Veterans for Peace puts together the Memorial Mile at Olbrich Park. The goal is to symbolize the lives lost due to war. They place more than 6,000 headstones through the park, creating a powerful visual. Veterans for Peace is asking for volunteers to help them place the markers this Saturday at 9 a.m. at Olbrich Park. And that's what you need to know. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. This is WMDX News.
I'm Pete with 60 Seconds Showbiz Beat. And in people who do desperate things because they haven't had a hit record in years news, Kid Rock pulled a handgun out and started waving it around during an interview with a Rolling Stone reporter. According to a tweet from Rolling Stone on X Twitter, during the interview, Rock got more and more drunk and belligerent as he spouted racial slurs and shared what he thought was wrong with America, like immigration and the fact that no one buys his music anymore, and how come there aren't any more trust fund kids who change their names to make themselves more manly. As he left the interview, Rock, formerly known by his real name, Robert James Ritchie, asked the reporter to write a horrific article about him, saying it helps him. Rock's last top 40 hit was in 2008 and was a song that sampled 3 other songs. You can see why Robert James, probably RJ to his friends before he became famous, might seem a little testy. For more showbiz fun, tune in to Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, weeknights from 7 to 9 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Local radio for you and your community. It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. A stray storm or two this evening, otherwise mostly clear and a low in the low 50s tonight. Sunshine for tomorrow, maybe a late day storm and a high in the mid-70s. More rain possible Thursday night and Friday. The wind starts to pick up as well. High temperatures in the mid-70s. It's 71 right now.
It is one of the most important business decisions you will make, selling your commercial building. It should involve making a plan to maximize your sale price through effective and responsive marketing. Your plan should also include a clear understanding of tax consequences. You need the professionals at Altus Commercial Real Estate to guide your success. Experience and responsive professionals make all the difference. Make your plan to sell. Call Altus Commercial Real Estate today at 608-338-1101.
This is Chad Spate. Sometimes I'm overwhelmed by the hatred and misinformation that consumes our world, but I also know that we cannot build a house of justice and inclusion on a foundation of hatred and lies. We have to practice what we preach. At Chad's Design Build, we confront injustice the same way we confront a poorly built home, with love, compassion, intelligence, and persistence. We engage our community the way we engage our clients, with honesty and humility and the dogged determination that we can do better. Chad's Design Build, remodeling done well with love.
Maggie Dawn.
Next up, Matt Rothschild will be sitting in the hot seat. He's got a couple of special guest lineups. You're not going to want to miss it. And I'll see you Friday.
The Maggie Dawn Show. Weekday afternoons at...
The Devil's Advocates rock and roll political commentary in a top 40 world.
Pretty fly for a white guy.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Wednesday edition. I got to come back to the John Edwards for just a minute. This is the only parallel case, presidential campaign. Guy has an affair, uses donor money to pay off the mistress, who eventually he fathered a love child with, apparently. Almost $1 million in donor money. Campaign finance violation. Seems very clear, right? Well, he went to trial on federal charges. And the only charge that the jury could come to a conclusion on, the only one they didn't hang on, was whether or not he violated campaign finance charges with donations exceeding $2,300 at the time. That was the only thing they acquitted him on. And I'm saying there's a lot of parallels between what is alleged against Trump, what the prosecutors are supposedly using, a federal statute that Cohen was convicted of, along with other charges, which, if you believe Cohen's side, he only pled guilty because his wife was going to be charged with tax evasion. So he took the whole ball of wax and he pled guilty to all of them. And by your logic, and it makes sense, Dom, if it's simple A to B to C logic, sure, it makes sense. Cohen violated federal campaign finance laws. He pled guilty, and he was doing so on behalf of the boss. But again, I would assert Trump proposed a plan that would not have been a specific violation of campaign finance laws. If Trump used personal resources to the tune of $130,000, but he offered to, and he Cohen
doesn't. Okay, so whatever.
But now you got to prove that Trump wanted Cohen to violate the laws, and I'm not sure that that's happened, Dom. Again, I'm not sure that they've proven the overarching federal elections crime. And if Trump had a rationale that would have solved that problem, and his own fixer said, no, I got a better idea, I'll pay her and you can reimburse me, and that's what he did, well, you haven't proven that Trump was in on the crime, that he wanted that criminal action to happen.
So that
he had a different plan
regarding David Pecker's admission as well, and their media company, that they did this in behest and for Trump. You totally throw that out. You just
David Pecker may have violated campaign finance. That may be a violation on David Pecker's behalf, but he's been given amnesty for his testimony. He's not at trial either. The only guy at trial is Trump here, not whether or not Cohen violated laws, because he was convicted.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, this is a lot more convoluted than you seem to think it is.
I think you're making it more convoluted than it needs to be. The charging statements from the Manhattan DA. Number one, quote, defendant Donald J. Trump repeatedly and fraudulently falsified New York business records to conceal that hid damaging information from the voting public during the 2016 presidential election. Right?
I have no doubt that he cooked the books eventually and paid Cohen back, because we saw the checks with his signatures. What I'm doubting is whether or not you've proved a clear finance violation when Trump offered to pay Stormy cash and Cohen said, no, I got a different plan. And by Cohen inserting himself in the middle and paying.
If I may, Michael, that wasn't Stormy. That was the Playmate. The recording is of Cohen talking about the Playmate, not Stormy Daniels, which was done 12 days before the election. The whole thing was done for the election. They cooked up the catch and kill scheme for the election. The conspiracy.
David Pecker was never reimbursed. David Pecker ate that $150,000.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. One component of the scheme was that at the defendant's request, the lawyer who worked for Trump, lawyer A, covertly, again, this is Cohen, we know this, right? The participants took steps that mischaracterized for tax purposes the true nature of the payments in furtherance of the scheme. I guess I'm not clear what you think has not been specifically articulated.
The scheme, the criminal scheme, other than the cooking of the books. Now, if he wasn't running for president and the same circumstances happened, do you think Donald Trump is charged with 34 felonies? Meaning, if he paid off a porn star,
right? But he wouldn't be in violation of campaign finance laws if he wasn't running for president. And your other
John Edwards.
Thank you. Your comparison to that. I'm not remember. It's been a while on that, but he wasn't running for office at the time, correct?
Yes, he was. He was running for the presidency of the United States.
He was
It is
at
the
time
most
of the payoff.
parallel example ever.
During the time of the payoff.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
He's running for president. He paid off his mistress with donor money, $1 million. The only charge he was acquitted on was the federal campaign finance excessive campaign donation limits. That's the only one the jury threw out.
From the charging document, after the election, Trump reimbursed he reimbursed Cohen at first through a series of monthly checks, first from the Donald J. Trump Revocable Trust, a trust created under laws of New York to which the Trump Organization entity assets after the defendant was elected president, and then from his bank account, each check processed by the Trump Organization, and each check was disguised as a payment for legal services rendered to a given month, 2017, pursuant to a retainer, quote-unquote, retainer agreement. So you think all this is just, circumstantial?
No, I didn't say it was circumstantial. I think there's clear evidence that they cooked the books. What I don't think the prosecution ever got around to doing was clarifying the federal violation and proving it. That's the part I am very concerned about.
That is the other point. They didn't have to. As our caller Gerald said,
well,
obviously
Gerald was also wrong about whether it was state charges or federal charges. So I appreciate the fact he's an attorney.
I don't know, man.
But
you're quoting
it's not his case.
Article, and it was there. I'm not clear that was a specific fact that was reporting on that.
I went back to find reporting that supported my clear understanding that they were using a novel concept, which was they're using state charges, bumped up the felonies, but the underlying alleged crime was a federal crime. If you listen to any of these yahoos, they'll point out the SDNY never felt the need to prosecute. And you can say, well, that's because of the catch and kill. And I've certainly made that assertion myself.
The Bill Barr.
But perhaps it's also about the unreliable testimony and the fact that the federal courts or the federal prosecutors had already bitten the bullet and lost and got handed their lunches on John Edwards, a very parallel allegation.
If Cohen goes to jail for the crime that he did for Donald Trump, all you have to do is prove, or at least convince the jury, that Donald Trump wanted that done on his behalf, as everybody is testifying to. Everybody else is lying. I mean, Trump wrote the checks from at least two, maybe three different accounts. They hid it. They did the books. They did it before the election. They did it in furtherance of the conspiracy to hide, to catch and kill negative stories during an election, and in every way, shape, and form to deny the American people, number one, the ability to make an informed decision. And
I'm not sure that part of it's a crime. I keep saying it, and you keep reading it to me, but denying the American people of the right to know that Trump had an affair with Stormy Daniels, I don't think rises to the level of a crime. You haven't convinced me. The prosecution certainly hasn't convinced me. Whether or not the transaction of money creates another federal crime, I'm just saying the last time someone got charged with this, they were acquitted. It was John Edwards.
844-967-2789. Let's go, Paul. You're up. Welcome, Paulie. What do you got for us?
Hey, Paul.
Hey, good afternoon, Devils. I happen to agree with, as much as I hate to, I happen to agree with Crute. Hey, it's just why
do you hate to agree with me? I make a lot of good salient points some days.
Well, you do, but I just like Don better. So, hey,
understandably, Paulie, understandably.
Yeah, he's really cool at parties. Not that you're not cool, but he's cooler at parties. And Mrs. Wisco really likes him. Hey, if it only takes one juror, right, Crute? Correct? Just one juror?
Only takes one juror to hang the jury on the charges.
Yeah, that's why I'm agreeing with you. And this is the last trial before the election. And once your theory comes true, that's wind in Trump's sails in an already close election. So I would say that he's going to shout this from the rooftops. And, boy, it's going to be something else here. You guys are going to have to be on your A game here in Milwaukee when the convention rolls around. So I agree with you, Crute, and you guys, you guys have a great day. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Wisco. 844-967-2789. Let's sneak at least one more in here. David from Mequon. How you doing, David?
Hello, David.
Good, guys. I really quickly. So, Crute, I actually agree with you as well. Dom, I'm just going to say a couple things.
Well, you got me nervous. If you're agreeing with me, I take Dom's side. But tell me why.
Okay, so basically, there's two things that this is lacking, big ones. First, it was an expired chargeable misdemeanor after 2 years that was roughly 5 years ago. That's number one.
Wait,
And
hang
then
on,
second,
David. I want to explain that to me. What's your logic on that?
The misdemeanor statute of limitations have expired.
Yes. Right. So after 2 years, that misdemeanor expired, and that was now 5 years ago.
Now, David, I can speak to
Let me
this.
pause there. Now, my understanding of New York law is if you are out of the state, the time stops. So once
He was out of jurisdiction, David. So Trump technically made himself, continued the clock ticking because he moved out of the New York jurisdiction.
Now, do you disagree with that? Or, I mean, it's one thing to not like that law, David, but do you concur that is why this is able to be charged at this point?
Well, I mean, if it was to be, but it shouldn't be a felony. It was just a misdemeanor.
Right.
That's all.
That's why the combination of the two misdemeanors becomes a felony. So one, we agree that they have the right to bring the charge because the statute of limitations pauses once the defendant leaves the state and starts up again once he goes back. So we concur on that.
I never heard. From my understanding, that's never happened in the history of the United States.
Well, that's happened, David. People have had statute of limitations extended for a variety of quote unquote technicalities, but being out of the jurisdiction is hardly a technicality.
But it was a federal misdemeanor, and now we're charging him with a state felony. I mean, I just
that part's true to my understanding, David. The alleged underlying federal crime is also a misdemeanor, but because the cooking of the books is done in furtherance of a crime, which happens to be a federal misdemeanor, that bumps all of the underlying charges up to a felony. And that is a novel concept.
So the one thing, I guess my question to both of you is this. So on the stand, Cohen admitted that he stole, what, $30,000?
Times two, 60 grand, actually, David. One out of every $7 involved in that transaction was directly stolen by Cohen.
So is he going to get zapped now with the felony, or did he get immunity? I mean,
he's already served time, and he was there as a subpoenaed witness. The fact that he admitted to larceny, I believe that what the charge would be, that would be a more substantial crime, what he admitted to on the stand, than any of the underlying crimes that Trump is charged with at trial.
Okay. Yeah,
that might twist the jury a little bit. I mean, I definitely thought that was a big deal. And Todd Blanche would have been smart just to end with Michael Cohen, bringing on Costello to make Michael Cohen look good by comparison. I mean, that's hard.
Yeah, right.
So it wasn't a perfect match played by the defendants. But, David, I don't disagree with you. When one of the witnesses confesses to a greater crime than the defendant sitting in the chair, and he hasn't been charged with that crime, I got to wonder what I'm doing ruling on the other guy.
That's exactly my point.
Well, David, the point is that Cohen isn't on trial, and my understanding is the prosecutors were aware of the theft prior to it, so they played their hand the way they did, and the defense probably could have taken them to task on that, chose not to. And not only did they miss an opportunity to get into Cohen about $1 every $7, they also brought Costello on to make Cohen look good. So that was bad. But David, it's not just Cohen. It's all we've had 20 days of trial, man. We had Pecker up there. We had Hope Hicks talking. We had other people coming and talking about how this whole thing went down.
I'm just not clear that any other person corroborated the actual underlying crime that Trump is supposed to be connected to if your only connection is Michael Cohen, who's robbing the guy he's also testifying against. I'm just saying you're going to get a twisted jury. Come back, more Devils.
devilradioswag.com. You've asked for it for over a decade. We've finally gotten off our dead and responded. devilradioswag.com. T-shirt in Dom's favorite slimming black, white, or gray. devilradioswag.com. Crew necks, hoodies, coffee mugs, exclusive merchandise at the greatest radio show ever. Only at the devilradioswag.com, because we got bills too.
College may not be the right path for your kid, but that doesn't mean they can't earn a good living and have a secure future. If they like working with their hands and want to help build up surrounding communities, they should consider a career in the skilled trades through a 4-year apprenticeship as a union carpenter. To learn more, it's easy. Visit northcountrycarpenter.org and fill out the interest form to get more information. That's northcountrycarpenter.org.
Hi, Gordy Kopke here. When I first invited folks to my farm 40 years ago, I could never have dreamed that would become the area's largest greenhouse. With a focus on quality plants at reasonable prices and a special emphasis on customer service, we have received the People's Choice Award as Madison area's best greenhouse. Located 2 miles east of Oregon in the beautiful town of Dunn, I invite you out to see why we are not only the area's largest greenhouse, but also the best.
I'm Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I learned about atrial fibrillation the hard way. My symptoms would come and go. Shortness of breath, fatigue. I kept going. Then I got so lightheaded, I couldn't. My doctor said I have AFib, so I'm about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. Other symptoms, irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain can come and go, but the risk of stroke stays. If you have symptoms, tell a doctor. Visit notimetowait.com.
Sponsored by Bristol Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Occupy didn't start on Wall Street. It started on our street. The Devil's
Radio show phone line open going there shortly at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, the jury is in. Crute loves cherry pie. And
yeah, we know that.
Nikki Haley will vote for Donald Trump in 2024.
And there's your VP?
Doubtful. Doubtful,
come on, man. Who else is getting any she got to bring her voters, man. She pulled 20% like in Indiana or something. She wasn't even running anymore.
I have no doubt that would be the strategic choice. I think she is not sufficiently loyal. From Trump's perspective, you know what I'm saying.
Even say that just kind of goes to show you where that party is.
844-967-2789. Dynamo Dave is in Duluth, Minnesota. Welcome, Dave. What do you got for us?
Hey, Dave.
Hey, gentlemen. Good. Thank you for taking my call. Hey, about 4 weeks from now is the Midwest Renewable Energy Fair in your guys' backyard there, Madison, in Amherst, Wisconsin, not far from Stevens Point. I wonder if you guys could make a broadcast from there.
What is it, 21st? Dynamo Dave?
The Midwest Renewable Energy Fair. It's been going on for many, many, many years.
I've been. Crute likes solar. I like PV solar, dude. Yeah, are you going to be there, Dave?
Now specialize. I'll be there. I'll be looking for both of you guys.
Is it over a weekend, Dave? Because Stevens Point is actually near my cabin. I might actually go up there if it's a weekend.
Yeah, it's Friday, Friday, June 21st, Saturday, June 22nd. This year, there is no Sunday one. So it's just Friday.
Well, Dave, we're going to have a conflict on the 22nd because Dom and I are doing the naked bike ride in Milwaukee.
But they're the bikes, so that's energy friendly.
You guys.
Well, part of that is a protest against petroleum and non-renewable stuff. So, Dynamo Dave, you should be proud if we go streaking on our bikes that day.
And body positivity.
I will be proud of you. Yes.
Any other political thoughts today, Dave?
Any photos.
Remind me, dude. I might go. But any other political thoughts?
Yeah, please do. Yeah, one thing I want to ask you guys. There's back here in Minneapolis, there's a civil lawsuit against that Derek Chauvin. Some woman filed a lawsuit, $9 million. I was wondering if cities take out like insurance, civil or liability insurance, so they're not always having to pay out these big, huge things through taxpayer money. To recall,
I'm not clear. Milwaukee seemingly takes them out of their general budget, and they've had a number of payoffs. They had a former Bucks player. They had the family of Dontre Hamilton, who was a guy that got beat to death in the park for no apparent reason other than he was sleeping on a bench. There's been a lot of police violation of citizens and suspects. Yeah, there's been a lot of payoffs from Milwaukee specifically, and they all come right out of the budget, Dynamo Dave.
Yeah, that was like 10 years ago. Dontre Hamilton was shot in Milwaukee by the police for sleeping in a park.
Like cities segment that out of their budget, say, okay, the police department, it's going to come out of their budget, and then they have to then train their officers so that they're not going to have to allocate in their budget for these civil lawsuits or these lawsuits going against them. You know what I mean? So it's not hitting the whole city's budget.
Well, Dynamo Dave, that's where the whole defund the police came from. And unfortunately, at least as a rhetorical tool, it hasn't really gone the way we would hope. Defunding the police, I would say demilitarizing the police would be a good start point. I don't think the police officers should have a tank. I'm just saying, Dave. If I can't have a tank, they should not have a tank.
Yeah. What does the ACLU say about owning your own tank? And
my understanding is the gas mileage quite low on the tank.
Oh yeah.
But do you remember about a decade ago we had former Madison police chief Koval in?
Love that thing,
and they got themselves their new armored vehicle. And he said, no, think of it more as like an SUV on steroids. And I'm like, that thing's a tank, man. It's literally a tank. It's an armored vehicle. Do we have that much call for armored vehicles in
it doesn't
Madison,
tank have a turret, and they shoot the shells. I mean, this thing isn't shooting shells. Not a tank. It's an armored vehicle, man.
Oh, let's just call it an SUV on steroids. Did it have truck nuts in the back? Because otherwise, it's not a real recreational vehicle.
That's a great look.
Dom, what say you? Nikki Haley, does she think that Trump is going to be exonerated at trial? And now, before the verdict, is the time to get out front and let people know nothing this man could do will lose her vote.
Welcome to Mega. Trump, guilty by Friday. Next week.
Rich, here's the problem, man. When you play the cherry pie song, there better be some cherry pie.
Yeah,
I do get it.
He's in withdrawal right now.
I'm not quite ready to abuse the radio and say, someone please bring me cherry pie. But if it happened,
you'd eat it?
I'd be eternally grateful. It's like that day the girl said banana bread, and there was no banana bread.
There was banana bread.
But when I did ask for the cookies, Don, the audience rose to that occasion over the course of weeks. If I could only have cherry pies all summer long, Door County preferred.
Oh, now you're picking.
Well, if I can choose.
I mean, may as well throw an opinion out there.
844-967-2789, a happier happy hour. Locked and loaded. Joe Biden wanted to kill Trump.
Yeah.
Did you hear that?
I heard that. I don't think it's
it must
true,
be true. They're talking about it on the Fox
got
News.
Unlimited liability, so what's the problem?
Presidential immunity.
Swing it!
Coming up next on the show, the Acme Packing Company's Paul Noonan joins us to talk sports, weather, and wine with Brittany Merlot. Don't miss it.
Matt Nair on air, weekday mornings at 11.
Do you like Delta 8? It'd be cooler if you did. We proudly announce the Devil's Advocates have partnered with Herbal Aspect to bring your newest Delta 8 favorites, Devil's Gummies, exclusively at herbalaspect.com. Legal for consumption by adults, they may be mailed directly to your home. Always use Devil Radio at checkout to let Herbal Aspect know where you heard them. Order today for delivery. Devil's Gummies and Devil Radio exclusive specials only from herbalaspect.com, code Devil Radio.
Your news, conversations, and a whole lot of fun. It's all on your local Civic Media radio station or the Civic Media app. You're listening to Mad Radio, WMDX 1580 AM Columbus, W224EG Madison, and always streaming on the Civic Media app.
ABC News, I'm Brian Clark. As President Biden welcomes Kenya's President William Ruto to the White House for the start of a state visit, one Republican candidate who wanted to face him in November, Nikki Haley, says despite her harsh criticism of former President Donald Trump
has not been perfect on these policies. I've made that clear many, many times. But Biden has been a catastrophe. So I will be voting for Trump.
She was speaking before the Hudson Institute. Health officials have confirmed a second case of bird flu in a person in the U.S., another farm worker, this one in Michigan, as bird flu moves through dairy cattle. Officials say the risk to the general public remains low. Federal judge in California ruled the Federal Bureau of Prisons will go to trial next year over claims it allowed an environment where prison guards sexually abused incarcerated women. And the families of victims of the Uvalde school shooting settled with the city for $2 million each. This is ABC.
This news report is sponsored by Wisconsin Capital Management, LLC, serving their clients for 40 years. Visit wiscap.com.
For Civic Media, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. It's a busy day of storm cleanup for many parts of the state. Severe weather hit just about every region of Wisconsin. Straight-line winds are responsible for most of that damage, but National Weather Service experts will investigate whether any tornadoes touch down. Before that storm system hit us, it moved through Iowa. Multiple people have died in the small town of Greenfield, south of Des Moines. And the cicadas have arrived. Officials from the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources say they've gotten photos from someone in Lake Geneva showing the first time they've been seen this year. Even the DNR admits their mating calls can be deafening and annoying. Those are their words, not mine. They're expected to keep emerging in the southern portions of the state through June and won't show up again until 2041. For Civic Media, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. Here's what you need to know closer to home. Dane County supervisors will vote on a temporary county executive tonight. Jamie Kuhn has been nominated for the position. She spent the last 20 years in public service, working in the legislature, for the governor, and most recently, she was Wisconsin's Medicaid director in the Department of Health Services. There, she was responsible for more than 1,000 employees. County Board member Patrick Miles says she was chosen partially because of her ability to collaborate. Joe Parisi retired on May 3rd, leaving the position open. Voters will then decide the next county executive in the November election. And local health officials are starting to monitor Madison area beaches. Ahead of Memorial Day weekend, the goal is to determine whether the water is safe for humans and animals. They'll be checking for things like E. coli, blue-green algae, and other bacteria. They'll do these tests all summer. And that's what you need to know. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. This is WMDX News.
A win for the Crew. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Brewers' Christian Yelich with a dramatic triple in the 8th to drive in the go-ahead runs. Led to a Brewers 7-5 victory last night over the Marlins. Pat Murphy says don't forget about the performance of their two rookie pitchers, Robert Gasser to start and Tobias Myers to get the W.
Yeah, I mean, you know what, that helped us immensely. But the Marlins getting back in it is what hurts us. Tobias Myers, he got two rookies throwing 7 innings. That was big.
NFL, Packers OTAs continue in Green Bay. Some injured players, tight end Tucker Kraft recovering from a pectoral injury. New running back Josh Jacobs with a hamstring. Wide receiver Christian Watson was asked how he's doing after attending sessions at UW-Madison on overcoming his chronic hamstring issues.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely feel like I'm at 100%, but I mean, there's still a little bit of asymmetry there, and that's just something that I'm attacking, you know, with the training staff and the weight room. Obviously, just got to continue to get that right so there's not any risks in the future.
That's the Packers' Christian Watson. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
This is your hometown radio, refreshed, keeping you informed, entertained, and connected locally across the Civic Media Network.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. A stray storm or two this evening, otherwise mostly clear and a low in the low 50s tonight. Sunshine for tomorrow, maybe a late day storm and a high in the mid-70s. More rain possible Thursday night and Friday. The wind starts to pick up as well. High temperatures in the mid-70s. It's 71 right now.
At Chance Design Build, we provide remodeling done well with love. Our commitments extend beyond our workplace and your home to support our community. We judge people by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin, and we believe all humans deserve quality, publicly funded education, childcare, and health care. But what do you believe in? At Chance Design Build, we believe every person must have the opportunity to thrive. If you're thinking about remodeling your home, go to chancedesignbuild.com to learn more about our commitments to you, your home, and our community.
Wisconsin Capital Management in Madison is a registered investment advisory firm and has been serving their clients for the past 40 years. The firm is focused on providing investment advisory services to its affiliated mutual funds. Their approach to investment management is designed to provide competitive performance over the entire business cycle. Their clients rely on them to manage their assets through the fluctuations of market cycles, and they strive to outperform over the long term. For information, visit wiscap.com.
Todd Albaugh.
Hey everybody, Todd Albaugh here. Join us next time as we welcome Jeff Timmer from the Lincoln Project in, looking at the day's headlines and also what's ahead for the Republican and Democratic state conventions. Join us.
The Todd Albaugh Show, weekdays noon till 2. The Devil's Advocates radio show is broadcast under a time brokerage agreement between Devil Radio and Civic Media, Inc. Some portions of this program may be pre-recorded. Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever, and due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the Civic Media Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
And now, here's your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates radio show, a happier happy hour, Wednesday style, Dom. We're moving on.
Move along.
Nothing to see here. Dom, here's a intriguing headline. Do you know that Joe Biden was going to take out Donald Trump? Trump World has convinced itself the feds aim to take out Trump. And gaining fame on the right doesn't require being correct. It just requires being alarmist, according to Philip Bump over at the Washington Post.
That is true.
At the end of April, Judge Eileen Cannon unsealed a number of documents related to the investigation into Donald Trump's retention of documents marked as classified after he left the White House yesterday on Icky Vicky's show. They were entering into Mar-a-Lago, locked and loaded, and she said specifically, what was the term? They had the right to use deadly force. The FBI came to Mar-a-Lago ready and prepared to use deadly force against Donald Trump, who happened to be in New Jersey. But anyway, setting that aside.
Not set that aside. They particularly specifically went there on the day that Trump wasn't there. Kind of goes against the whole want to murder Donald Trump thing.
Well, Dom, within hours, a new line of rhetoric emerged among the former president's most fervent supporters. The whole thing had been a frame-up. Here's why. Julie Kelly, a right-wing writer who specializes in plucking sensational-sounding allegations from legal documents, had plucked a sensational-sounding allegation from the mix. The General Services Administration, she claimed, had stored and shipped materials to Mar-a-Lago that included the marked documents, a discovery she suggested that indicated Trump had been framed.
It's a
framed, I
frame-up.
tell you. These are the boxes that ended up containing papers with classified markings, she claimed on the social medias. But the narrative was not true.
Oh, hang on. Trump, if I may just interject for a moment, I've never heard Trump suggest that that was the case. He said, these are my documents. He said, I've declassified everything. I've never heard Trump say that these were, surreptitiously shipped to me by the feds in order to set me up. But please continue.
The narrative was not true, Dom. The team of folks managing Trump's transition out of the White House leased space from GSA that expired after 6 months. Effectively, his lease was up. So they shipped him his crap out of storage, Dom.
His boxers and, the shirts and stuff.
At that point, all the material from the transition office was sent to Florida, including to Mar-a-Lago. By September of 2021, Trump was in possession of those boxes months before several boxes were sent back to the National Archives and Records Administration in almost a year before the FBI searched that uncovered more than 100 documents marked as classified. Picking through the court files, Kelly, the aforementioned sensationalist, also claimed that the famous photo of documents on the carpeted Mar-a-Lago floor was a product of an effort to mislead the public. As Philip Baum points out, this too was incorrect. On Tuesday, Cannon unsealed a new tranche of documents in the Florida case, being prosecuted by special counsel Jack Smith and being delayed by Cannon, he writes in parentheticals. And there was Kelly, picking out details of the FBI documents, preparing for the search, and casting them in a remarkable light. They showed not standard operating procedure, but instead that federal law enforcement was ready to draw their weapons on the former president. A shootout at the Mar-a-Lago Corral, if you will, Dom.
Well, only if he made a sudden move to his waistband.
Armed FBI agents were prepared to confront Trump and even engage Secret Service if necessary, she wrote on the social media, following a post quoting a filing from the legal team in which the FBI's authorization to use deadly force was noted. They were going to go door to door to terrorize Mar-a-Lago Rest and even pick the locks. Gestapo. Later, she shared a document titled Policy Statement, Use of Deadly Force. Even just Kelly's summation of the confrontation is misleading. The linked document notes that if Trump, the former president of the United States, should show up during the search, he was known to be at his home in New Jersey, which was one reason the search occurred when it did. The staff from the FBI and the special counsel's office will be prepared to engage with the former POTUS and his Secret Service team. So they even had... Oh, yeah.
Oh, what kind of engagement we talking about?
You tell the people, Dom.
Kelly's presentation of engaged, quote unquote, here is in the military engage the enemy sense. The obvious interpretation, however, is that the unexpected arrival of the former president was a contingency for which the Bureau needed to be prepared. This document is titled Contingencies, contingent, and that the plan was simply for the FBI and special counsel team to deal with it. If additionally the Secret Service made the search difficult, the FBI would engage with the Secret Service, quote, per existing liaison relationships, unquote. This is phone call engagement, not bang bang engagement. In a statement,
it could be.
You can only hope. In a statement, the FBI noted that it, quote, followed standard protocol in this search as we do for all search warrants, which includes a standard policy statement limiting the use of deadly force, unquote. That point is important. The deadly force document shared by Kelly constrains how and when firearms might be used. Kelly wrote that it showed how the FBI risked the lives of Donald Trump, his family, staff, and Mar-a-Lago guests for a publicity stunt to make it look like Trump stole national security files. Quick fact check, he did. Thanks to her repeated willingness to make sweeping, unsubstantiated allegations of dire malfeasance to an audience utterly uninterested in the validity of those allegations, Kelly has amassed a large audience on social media. So the, quote, the feds wanted to kill Trump story quickly took off. I got to tell you.
Didn't the feds want to kill Trump? Doesn't Joe Biden want to take out Trump? Shouldn't that be on the news or something?
someone like Kelly here, who's repeated willingness to make sweeping, unsubstantiated allegations of dire malfeasance and to an audience utterly uninterested in the validity of those allegations. Hell, she should run for president. The right-wing blog Federalist wrote a story about it. Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene shared Kelly's allegation, asking if the FBI was going to shoot SS, then President Trump, Melania, and Barron too? Question mark, question mark, question mark? Well, I mean, what is this, like the Russian Empire? They're getting rid of the whole family? When Trump himself posted the allegation on Truth Social, Greene took credit for tipping him off that the Biden DOJ and FBI were planning to assassinate President Trump and gave the green light. And by Crute, by Thursday evening, as all good Trumpsters do, he was fundraising off of it.
Well, we brought that to light because, Dom, I was receiving those fundraising emails and the ones from court yesterday.
A little more. Go ahead, man.
Nothing.
No, on the Foxies, host Jesse Waters, the replacement Tucker Carlson, who replaced Bill O'Reilly? Heck, hard to say. Had no qualms about picking up the story. Hell no, man. We love this stuff. Quote, they're saying Trump's going to unleash assassination squads on his enemies, Waters said. But Biden unleashed armed agents into Trump's house, authorizing them to use deadly force. He continued to suggest that the FBI agents conducting the search perhaps wore plain clothes, not to reduce the visibility of their hunt for documents, but because maybe they were looking for a little action.
That's what I do. I put on clothes and I go looking for a little action.
Looking for a little action, hoping the Secret Service would prompt a confrontation. Hours later, well after the Kelly-driven narrative had been demonstrated to be unfounded, Foxy host Maria Bartiromo hosted a panel that marveled at President Biden, quickly positioned by Trump supporters as the real driving actor here, authorizing the FBI, if it came to that, and he resisted arrest, to kill Donald Trump, as she put it. And Crute, as mentioned before the break last time, if the presidency, and apparently you have to have immunity, absolute immunity, presidential immunity, if that's the position, what's the problem? Couldn't Biden do that if he wanted to?
Only under the logic that Trump argued before the U.S. Supreme Court. We haven't heard back from, Alito, the upside-down flag guy yet on that case.
Alito's got another flag. We'll get to that as well. Again, Philip Bump at the Post. The idea that opposition to Trump is so fervent among his opponents that they want to see him dead is not new. In a conversation last year, Carlson suggested this possibility to Trump directly. Former president replied that it's the savage animals who are targeting him are people that are sick. It's an appealing bit of rhetoric in that it frames the left as deranged and bloodthirsty, and it reinforces a sense of victimization, thus undergirding Trump's 2024 campaign. To an objective observer, it's self-evidently ludicrous. It is a feature of the modern age that people pursue large sets of documents or data and pluck out things that they then misinterpret. Few, however, have Julie Kelly's combination of audience, devotion to Trump, and shamelessness. The result is that her dishonest or incorrect assessments of important issues drive news coverage and spur the claims made by the former president.
There's time. Don't have it in you, Dom.
All right, we'll wrap this up then.
There was another post she offered Tuesday that was not attention-grabbing. She noted the new documents, again noted the transfer of material to Florida in September of 2021. Who knows if some of the classified docs seized during FBI raid were contained in the GSA-packed boxes, she mused. The answer is she did, back in April, at least according to her initial thread on social media that went viral then. It's almost as if her sensational claims don't hold up over time, perhaps her allies might be more cautious in elevating them. We don't elevate lies. Dom can barely keep his eyelids open some days.
Come on, you guys. 844-967-2789. It's a happy hour. Come back with us.
Hi, I'm Mike Crute, and I've signed my share of commercial real estate leases. In Madison, I highly recommend Jeff Jansen from Altus Commercial Real Estate. Jeff guided me to my first radio station location on the west side. He helped us move to University Ave, and eventually Jeff set up the lease on the Civic Media World headquarters. No one works harder to provide options in commercial leasing. Call Jeff Jansen and his team at Altus Commercial Real Estate at 608-338-1101.
College may not be the right path for your kid, but that doesn't mean they can't earn a good living and have a secure future. If they like working with their hands and want to help build up surrounding communities, they should consider a career in the skilled trades through a 4-year apprenticeship as a union carpenter. To learn more, it's easy. Visit northcountrycarpenter.org and fill out the interest form to get more information. That's northcountrycarpenter.org.
DevilRadioswag.com. You've asked for it for over a decade. We've finally gotten off our dead and responded. DevilRadioswag.com. T-shirt in Dom's favorite slimming black, white, or gray. DevilRadioswag.com. Crew necks, hoodies, coffee mugs, exclusive merchandise of the greatest radio show ever. Only at the DevilRadioswag.com, because we got bills too.
It's springtime in Wisconsin and our greenhouses are bursting with color. We invite you out to Kopke's Greenhouse on Sandhill Road near Oregon. With over 3.5 acres of production space, we are the area's largest direct grower to consumer retailer. For hours and directions, check us out at kopkesgreenhouse.com. That's Kopkes greenhouse.com. We are also back on the square at the Dane County Farmers Markets.
Grass-fed, locally raised, 100% organic. The Devil's Advocates.
You're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Lines are open 844-967-2789. Crute, this whole narrative that Joe Biden wanted to assassinate Donald Trump, and they did this whole Mar-a-Lago raid in an effort, hopefully plainclothes FBI agents, maybe to pick a fight with the Secret Service, and perhaps Donald Trump would get shot in the crossfire. I guess, if you believe the conspiracies of the far right. The FBI, according to Axios, did respond. We read a little bit of it. Here's a little bit more. Quote, here we go, from Axios. The statement was in response to a Truth Social post from Trump earlier in the day that inflamed his conservative allies and included misleading claims about President Biden's Justice Department. The quote, the FBI followed standard protocol in this search, as we do for all search warrants, which includes a standard policy statement limiting the use of deadly force. No one ordered additional steps to be taken, and there was no departure from the norm in this matter.
You wouldn't have known it from the Trump fundraising missive I read on the air yesterday, the little email he sent me. Locked and loaded, he was claiming.
Locked and loaded. Former FBI assistant in charge, Steve Diotono, testified before Congress last year, saying it wasn't even a show of force because we were all in agreement. We made sure we interacted with the Secret Service to make sure we could go into Mar-a-Lago with no issues. We're not banging down any doors. We weren't bringing any FBI vehicles. Everything that was reported about helicopters and 100 people descending on like a Die Hard movie was completely untrue. That's not how we play it. Even for a search warrant, deadly force is always authorized if the required threat presents itself. Every FBI operations order contains a reminder of FBI deadly force policy. A former assistant director of counterintelligence, Frank Pigluzzi, wrote on the platform X. So this is standard operating procedure, apparently. And now this is the seed that's being planted by the far right. Oh, those crazy lunatic lefties wanted to murder our guy. We must protect him. And this is just asinine, you guys. This happens every single time the FBI does a raid. Every time. Standard operating procedure. SOP. Call it a SOP. Your SOPs. Are you kidding me? This is where they go. And elected officials, these sycophant mega occult whack jobs throw this out there like, oh, this is a conspiracy. That's what this is. It's just asinine. I can't even believe that we got to talk about this.
Have they never seen a Cops episode? Bad boys. What you gonna do? 844-967-2789. So I'm going to put you down in the disbeliever column, Dom.
I believe that there are standard operating procedures that the folks, the law enforcement use. And for all of the back the badge crap I hear from the right, what about that?
Well, they mean kicking down some drug dealer store. Not Trump's.
No, not
coming in and taking nuclear secrets out of the guest bathroom at Mar-a-Lago.
And apparently more at 4 months after the search, they found more stuff in his bedroom. What?
Well, in the bedroom closet, where you keep your best secrets.
I mean, come on. Problematic? I think so.
Dom, you realize that trial was supposed to happen starting this week. The Cannon trial, the documents trial.
Yeah.
Supposed to happen this week. I did find a little coverage. Trump lawyer meltdown revealed in newly unsealed Mar-a-Lago documents. Let's cherry pick like the right does, Dom. Travis Getty's over at the Aggregator, the Raw Story, one of my favored, newly released grand jury transcripts show Donald Trump's attorney in the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case refused to answer questions about his client during a contentious exchange. Is that good? Timothy Parlatore. I was deciding how I was going to pronounce that in real time.
Trying to figure out how to butcher his name properly.
Who quit the case shortly after Trump was indicted last year, accused a Department of Justice lawyer of not following the rules of attorney-client privilege, setting off a tense dialogue shown in court records unsealed by federal judge Eileen Cannon. You know what I think of her, Dom, and reported by Newsweek. Are we really doing this? Parlatore said, and another DOJ attorney interrupted and reminded Trump's attorney he's a witness and shouldn't be asking questions. Sounds a lot like the Costello sort, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
The grand jury ultimately handed up an indictment against Trump on 40 federal counts related to his mishandling of the sensitive government documents stashed at his private resort in Palm Beach, Florida. After leaving the White House in January of 2021, Parlatore testified before a grand jury on December 22nd, 2022 at a federal courthouse in D.C. It's privilege, which is something she knows if it's something that every attorney does know, Parlatore told investigators. DOJ lawyers Julie Edelstein, Brett Reynolds, and Annie McNamara questioned Parlatore, asking the attorney why Trump had not allowed him to discuss their conversations if he was cooperating with their investigation. The question you just asked seems to indicate that for somebody to be cooperative, they should waive their attorney-client privilege, which is absolutely wrong. Apparently, he's not cooperating. Edelstein told him that she was not asking him to waive attorney-client privilege, but said she was obligated to ask about their discussions of the matter. Do you understand that's not something that should even be suggested, Parlatore said? Reynolds intervenes and reminds Parlatore he was a witness, and Edelstein steps in and adds, she's asked him a question, which Parlatore again says is improper. But she explains her obligation. You made a representation to this grand jury about what was said at the meeting, and I asked you the basis of that representation. Parlatore again said the question is improper, adding she cannot ask what the former president had said to him, and his testimony ends in a short time later, both sides thanking one another.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Parlatore said, and I apologize if some of the answers were a little bit more convoluted just because of the weird dynamic here, but I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. At least they're polite while Rome is burning.
I have never thanked anyone after cross-examination. If I've given grand jury testimony, and you'll never know, Dom, I never thanked him afterwards. And you'll thank me. Come back. More Devil's Advocates. Trust me, Dom. You didn't want me thanking him.
Thank you, Michael.
Home for Matt Nair on air.
You can always continue the conversation on social media. Share your thoughts when you find and follow Civic Media on Facebook, X, and Instagram.
This is news from WMDX Madison. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. It's been a deadly week here in Wisconsin for people riding ATVs. A man died and a woman was hurt in a crash Sunday in Lafayette County. Another man died in an accident Thursday in Outagamie County. And a week ago in Shawano County, a 13-year-old girl died in a crash. If you're born after 1988, you must take an ATV safety course to drive on public lands. But the DNR says those courses are open to everyone. More and more evidence shows social media can be dangerous for kids. Deb Schmill's daughter died of an accidental overdose after she was bullied online.
We want to make sure that no other children die or are harmed by the same design features that have harmed our children.
The U.S. House Committee takes up the bipartisan Kids Online Safety Act this week. For Civic Media, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. Here's what you need to know closer to home. If you're waiting for your power to come back on, it may be a bit. Madison Gas and Electric says 42,000 people in the Madison area lost power at some point during these storms. Madison Gas and Electric says this is one of the biggest outages in MG&E history. It takes the majority of a workday to repair just one broken power pole, so they've really got their work cut out for them, and they'll be asking other groups to come help. They say it may take a few days to restore power to everybody. And it's not just homes that are affected. Some UW health clinics had to close until at least noon because they don't have power. That includes the following locations: Yahara, 621 Science Drive, the Digestive Health Center, and the Cross Plains Clinic. Across the Madison area, crews are working all day to clear streets from trees and debris. And that's what you need to know. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. This is WMDX News.
I'm Pete with the 60-second Showbiz Beat. If you're wondering how long it takes to make a comeback in Hollywood after basically attacking a man on stage, the answer is a little over 2 years. That's how long it's been since Slapgate, featuring the humorless Will Smith, who slapped the much smaller Chris Rock in front of the entire world. Bad Boys 4, yawn, hits theaters June 7th, and now Deadline has announced a new Smith film called Sugar Bandits. Deadline reports that in Sugar Bandits, Smith plays a tough Special Forces op who takes out drug dealers in Boston. Cool. Drug dealers hate being slapped. Football player, kicker, Harrison Butker has come under fire since his recent misogynistic commencement speech at Benedictine College. Pearl Jam singer Eddie Vedder shared his thoughts, telling a crowd during a concert in Las Vegas that people of quality don't fear equality. A nice little speech and a valid point, but kind of a bummer of an encore. Fans were probably hoping for Even Flow or Jeremy. For more showbiz fun, tune in to Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, weeknights from 7 to 9 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Enjoying this local program? Find the complete Civic Media lineup at civicmedia.us or the Civic Media app.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. A stray storm or two this evening, otherwise mostly clear and a low in the low 50s tonight. Sunshine for tomorrow, maybe a late day storm and a high in the mid-70s. More rain possible Thursday night and Friday. The wind starts to pick up as well. High temperatures in the mid-70s. It's 71 right now.
Do you like Delta 8? It'd be cooler if you did. We proudly announce the Devil's Advocates have partnered with Herbal Aspect to bring your newest Delta 8 favorites, Devil's Gummies, exclusively at herbalaspect.com. Legal for consumption by adults, they may be mailed directly to your home. Always use Devil Radio at checkout to let Herbal Aspect know where you heard them. Order today for delivery. Devil's Gummies and Devil Radio exclusive specials only from herbalaspect.com, code Devil Radio.
Every business seeks an advantage, whether it's having the best location, hiring top talent, or spotting trends before they happen. And now, the United States Postal Service can give your business a new advantage. Introducing USPS Ground Advantage. Reliable and affordable 2 to 5 day package shipping. It's the advantage you need at the price you want. Get the Ground Advantage at USPS.com/advantage. The United States Postal Service, delivering for America.
Maggie Dawn
Next up, Matt Rothschild will be sitting in the hot seat. He's got a couple of special guest lineups. You're not going to want to miss it. And I'll see you Friday.
The Maggie Dawn Show. Weekday.
The Devil's Advocates know how to kick ass and chew bubblegum, and we're all out of bubblegum.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Wednesday happy hour, rolling through it. Dom, my favorite saying this week, bleach blonde, bad built, butch body, describing your girl MTG, right?
You owe somebody some money for saying that, Crute. I think that's a protected phrase.
Representative Jasmine Crockett said that, and I think she's working on a trademark. Well, Dom, I don't know if you know, but in the GOP House, details of Trump's trial are an unfair personal attack, and words have been stricken from the record because someone's enumerating the alleged crimes. A candidate for president of the United States is on trial for allegedly facilitating a hush money payment to a porn star to avoid a sex scandal during his 2016 campaign. Maybe you heard this story. And then fraudulently disguising those payments in violation of the law. He is also charged with conspiring to overturn the 2020 presidential election. He's also charged with willful retention of classified information, and a jury has already found him liable for rape in a civil court. As you probably know, Dom, those statements apply to Donald Trump, the presumptive Republican nominee on November's presidential ballot. They're also statements that, with only slight changes, were deemed unfair personal attacks by House Republicans and removed from the record of debate on Wednesday afternoon. Rep. Jim McGovern, a Dem from Massachusetts, rose on the House floor to challenge having been admonished for saying Trump had been indicted by a grand jury and is on trial. He made a parliamentary inquiry, point of parliamentary procedure, about the admonishment. That is, he asked the Speaker pro tem, Jerry L. Carl, Republican from Alabama, Dom, for clarification on the rules of debate. Specifically, has the chair determined that it's unparliamentary to state a fact? You could also say bleach blonde, bad built, butch body and be stating a fact. Carl was handed a note suggesting that McGovern's question was anticipated. The chair is not in a position to determine the veracity of remarks made on the floor. He replied as a member facilitating debate at the time, members must avoid personalities. Isn't that how they admonished the whole row that happened the other night? Apparently people drinking in the House, getting a little rowdy.
After supporting their guy in New York, coming back on the red eye, a little lit up and getting rowdy with the bleach blonde, bad butch body.
Something like that. McGovern, the Democrat from Massachusetts, declared this to be unbelievable. Personalities is another one of those terms that has a specific meaning in the context of the House. It comes from a longstanding rule governing debate in the chamber, including the rules adopted for the 118th Congress. Remarks in debate, which may include references to the Senate or its members' rule. And it's in Roman numerals, so I'm doing the math. 17, Section 1B states, shall be confined to the question under debate, avoiding personality. And avoiding personality means simply not making personal attacks on your peers. The intent is to foster collegiality, to keep members of Congress from attacking other representatives, senators, or the president. In this way, decorum might be maintained and intrapersonal disparagements limited. But Trump is not a representative, senator, or president. He is a private citizen, at least at the moment, and there are broad protections granted to members of Congress under the Constitution's speech and debate clause. That clause protects sitting legislators from lawsuits or defamation, among other things, specifically to allow them to speak freely. I'm with McGovern. McGovern has broad impunity for his comments when speaking from the House floor, except, it seems, from rebuke by the Republican majority.
Ain't that the truth? Hill's got a little bit on this as well. Carl, the Republican, said this, quote, although remarks in debate may include criticism of such candidate's official position as a candidate, it is a breach of order to refer to the candidate in terms potentially offensive, whether by actually accusing or by merely insulting. The acquisition that the president has committed a crime or even that the president has done something illegal is not in order. And I would push back on Republican Carl because nobody's talking about Biden. They're talking about the orange mega cult leader who's been sitting his ass in a cold, very cold New York courthouse for the last 20 days. The chair is ruling bars McGovern from speaking on the horse for the rest of the remainder of the day. He had to go sit in a corner, Crute. Here is what he had to say on McGovern's response. They can get around. They say, characterize the trial as a sham and that the judge is corrupt and the jury is rigged. That's perfectly fine. They never get admonished for saying that. And I said what I said, which is everything is factual. I didn't characterize. I didn't say he was guilty of anything. An incredulous McGovern said shortly after the incident, it must have hit a nerve. And they moved to take my words down and basically canceled me or silenced me for the rest of the day. He told reporters, there's nothing I said that I regret.
Dom, I've got a little more of the quote from McGovern. These are not alternative facts.
Nah.
These are real facts. A candidate for the United States is on trial for sending a hush money payment to a porn star to avoid a sex scandal during his 2016 campaign and then fraudulently disguising these payments in violation of the law. We can split hairs here. The payment was sent by his attorney, Michael Cohen, and Trump is innocent until proven guilty, so we use the word allegedly, but on trial for serves a similar purpose, and allegations made otherwise comport with his articulation. A little more of the quote, Dom. He's also charged with conspiring to overturn the election. McGovern continued. He is also charged with stealing classified information. Now, the columnist here clarifies the latter claim is a stretch. Trump isn't charged with stealing or theft, but instead with willfully retaining documents, Dom. Trying to get all the words positive
I
here.
didn't steal it when I took it, but I kept it when they wanted it back.
Well, let's just say Michael Cohen willfully retained about 60 grand of Trump's money. Willfully retaining documents in his possession. It's a difference between you picking my pocket and you running off with my wallet instead of returning it after I asked you to hold it for a moment. McGovern added that a jury has already found him liable for rape in a civil court.
True.
And that part's true.
Factual.
It was about this point in McGovern's soliloquy that Rep. Aaron Houchin, Republican from Indiana, Houchin, 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 that's what I'm calling him, demanded his comments be stricken from the record. Now, Carl stated that the words would be taken down and told McGovern, sit down. Sit down, Dom. Sit down indeed.
You eyeballing me? You side-eyeing me?
What say you, Dom? Can't talk about Trump's tribulations on the House floor, but you can talk all about, Hunter Biden? You see, there is some...
You could show junk pics of Hunter Biden on the floor, and that's okay. You're talking about decorum? Right? You can talk about this trial being a sham, and the judge is corrupt, and all these other things, as the Democrat McGovern points out here. That's all fine. But, boy, you get too close to the orange leader, man, they will get in line against you. Hell, Nikki Haley is endorsing Donald Trump today.
Isn't everybody? 844-967-2789. I suspect I got one guy who is. CJ, welcome back.
Hey, CJ.
Oh.
Hello. Uh-oh.
He's playing the hold game with us.
Yeah. Oh, we tried, man. Sorry.
Too bad. No CJ today. Blew his opportunity. That's so sad.
You snooze, you lose. They say the early bird gets the worm, but I always like to say the second mouse gets the cheese.
Is that what you like to say, Dom?
844-967-2789. 2789. Crute, we got.
I leave the worms for Robert Kenney's brain. I'll fight you for that cheese, though. Never did get no cherry pie around here.
Oh man, see what's happening. What's happening? The Supreme Court, man. The U.S. Supreme Court. It's not just the one flag. Apparently, there's more flags. Crute.
Alito's got multiple flags.
He's the very flaggy guy. He likes his flags. And my wife texted one to me. Thank you, Steffi.
Real quick before you do that, yeah. I just got a little note here. Best CJ call ever.
Honestly, it was the most articulate and pointed conversation I think we've ever had. It made the most sense.
Sorry, CJ, you blew it. He's back in the queue. No, you blew it. You got to get in line for tomorrow. 844-967-2789. Your wife sent you one, but let's grab Gary real quick.
All right, real quick.
We'll savor this one.
Hey, Gary, welcome. What do you got for us?
How you doing, fella?
Hey, guys. Well, since CJ hung up on you guys and showed you guys disrespect, I decided I'll call up and I'll give you some respect.
Respect my authority, Gary.
Hey, there's a lot of respect here. I like you guys. You guys have always been nice to me. Well, not always, but most of the time.
Also a true statement, but go ahead, Gary.
There's a couple times you called me a whiny little bee, and that really pissed me off.
But I've called lots of people whiny little bitch, Gary.
I took a year off.
But you're back.
I decided to come back.
You're back, man. You got to have more. So what's your thought today, Gary?
Time heals all butthurt, Gary.
Yeah, I know. But, okay. No, I know you guys have been going back and forth with, what's right, what's wrong with the testimonies and Michael Cohen and all this sort of stuff. Yeah. But let's just go down. What do you really think that's going to happen? Not what you want, but what do you think is going to happen? Is he going to be found guilty or not guilty?
Hung jury.
So then they're going to retry him then?
Could be a retrial, but it's not going to happen between now and Election Day, Gary. I think he's going to have a hung jury and he's going to claim exoneration. Now, Gary, that's the pessimist in me.
I think he's convicted in 2 days, maybe 3. We could have a conviction by next week, Friday, Gary.
All right. I will bet you guys lunch or dinner that he
But we're taking both sides of the action, Gary.
Yeah, who you betting, man?
Yeah. I'm betting Dom.
Oh.
Because Mike agrees with me, so I'm betting Dom. Now, Dom, are you in Madison now, or are you living in Milwaukee yet?
I'm still in Milwaukee, but the wonders of technology, Gary, I can do this job anywhere.
Okay, so you and me, I'll bet you lunch or dinner or whatever, just the two of us, that he is not convicted, and you're saying he is.
Hey, are we gonna get like one shake and 2 straws, or how are we gonna do this, Gary? Can I bring my wife along?
You gotta wait till the Brewers score a lot of runs. You're taking them to George Webb or something, Gary?
Hey, Mike, if you were closer, I'm not going to go all the way out to Madison. That's ridiculous.
I got to come to you to get fed?
Do you think they failed in your position? You agree with Michael, hung jury, not guilty, something along those lines. Do you think that the prosecution failed to prove the case? Do you think Donald Trump did anything wrong in this endeavor?
I think Donald Trump, if he went on the stand, they would crucify him. So the fact is, I think he's going to have to lie through his lost little teeth. You get some scum-sucking lawyers that are going to go out there and lie for you. There's a lot of things that Donald Trump has done, but for them to go after him for this, and they cannot prove it. And if they, I don't even know if he admitted that he had sex with her. I don't think he even admitted that, did he?
He strongly denies it, Gary, so it must be true.
So do you reimburse your lawyer for, double or triple what you... for the porn star for not having sex, Gary? I mean, does that make any sense to you whatsoever?
The whole thing stinks, as far as I'm concerned.
What about the J6? Would you want to see that trial come to conclusion before the election?
Wait, I didn't hear you. What?
The January 6th trial, the insurrection trial in D.C. Would you like to see that one come up before the election?
Yeah. I really don't care. He's going to walk from that one, too, because I heard him say, go to the Capitol, but do it peacefully. They'll never convict him on that one, ever. Nothing.
Gary, that's where we part company.
Yeah.
That's the only trail that...
I also heard Hannibal Lecter say, I got to go have lunch with a friend. 844-967-2789.
You going to tell me about the Alito flag?
Stephanie Miller here. As an enlightened progressive, you know how important it is to do business in accordance with your politics. That's why Solidarity Realty is my favorite real estate firm in Madison. Solidarity Realty is a local independent realty company that lives their values. They provide outstanding expertise and protect your best interests while building community and promoting sustainability and diversity. Viva la resistance! Find them today at solidarityrealty.com. And don't forget, tell them Stephanie Miller sent you.
Do you like Delta 8? It'd be cooler if you did. We proudly announce the Devil's Advocates have partnered with Herbal Aspect to bring your newest Delta 8 favorites, Devil's Gummies, exclusively at herbalaspect.com. Legal for consumption by adults, they may be mailed directly to your home. Always use Devil Radio at checkout to let Herbal Aspect know where you heard them. Order today for delivery. Devil's Gummies and Devil Radio exclusive specials only from herbalaspect.com, code Devil Radio. Hey, Dom, how many palindromes can you name in 30 seconds?
Race car, mom, dad, reefer, kayak, level. Did I say mom already?
You're forgetting one really important one.
Zero res.
Not only is it the coolest palindrome ever, it's also our favorite.
Right, I remember. Why is that again?
They advertise with us.
Zero res, my favorite palindrome.
And carpet cleaner. Get the best carpet cleaning ever. Schedule your carpet cleaning online at zeroresmadison.com. Tell them the Devil's Advocate sent you. DevilRadioswag.com. You've asked for it for over a decade. We've finally gotten off our dead and responded. DevilRadioswag.com. T-shirt and Dom's favorite slimming black, white, or gray. DevilRadioswag.com. Crew necks, hoodies, coffee mugs, exclusive merchandise of the greatest radio show ever. Only at the DevilRadioswag.com. Because we got bills too.
The Devil's Advocates, radio for the 99%.
Yeah, thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, our last segment of the day. So if you have something to say, hit us up on the lines, talk or text 844-967-2789. Gary, to put a bow on it, I accept. I'll tell you, man, I drink my dinner, brother, so it might be more than a burger you're working for.
You'll be drinking it through a straw when I'm done with you, Dom. Here's...
Okay,
I got a couple of the texters.
Yeah.
I just want to throw them out there before I forget to look, like you often forget to look. Andrew from Verona texts in, the Cheeto Messiah is a couple of Big Macs away from the big one. If the feds wanted him gone, just send him some McDonald's coupons. That one hits close to home for me, actually, Dom.
That's why it's funny, because it's true.
Another WMDX texter says, according to them, Joe would have immunity if he ordered Trump's murder. Dana from La Crosse says the whole episode about the president getting shot is some hilarious stuff. Let's just say, Dana, for radio's sake. Some texters saying MAGAs are so foolish. And here is sort of a theme I've seen once or twice, Dom. If the FBI was sent to assassinate Trump, why is he still alive?
Interesting point.
Sorry, I keep interrupting. What was the one you wanted to make, Dom?
They fail at their job. The deep state can't trust them. The New York Times reporting another provocative flag was flown at another Alito home. The Justice's beach house displayed an appeal to heaven flag. A symbol carried.
Alito's got a beach house?
A symbol carried on January 6th and associated with a push for more Christian-minded government.
That's the pine tree flag?
That's the pine tree flag. Last summer, 2 years after the upside-down American flag was flown outside the Virginia home of Alito, another provocative symbol was displayed as vacation home in Jersey. This time, it was the appeal to heaven flag.
Well, he's got a vacation home on the Jersey Shore. I gotta let that sink in for a minute. Jersey Shore, is he out there?
Hey,
do you remember that show?
Jersey Shore, man. I want to put words in the mouth, but the situation's got something to say about it. This time, it was the Appeal to Heaven flag, which, like the inverted U.S. flag, was carried by rioters at the Capitol on January 6th of 2021. Also known as the Pine Tree flag, it dates back to the Revolutionary War, but largely fell into obscurity till recent years and is now a symbol of support for former President Donald J. Trump, for a religious strand of the Stop the Steal campaign, and for a push to remake American government in Christian terms. Jumping down into the body of this piece, judges are not supposed to give any impression of bias, yet the flag could be seen as telegraphing the elito's views, and at a time when justices were on the cusp of adopting new ethics code. A quote from Charles Guy, a law professor at Indiana University: "We all have our biases, but the good judge fights against them. When a judge celebrates his predispositions by hoisting them on a flag, that's deeply disturbing." Just a little bit more here as well. This same flag flies outside, according to the New York Times, the office of Speaker Mike Johnson. Since its creation during the American Revolution, the flag has carried a message of defiance. The phrase "appeal to heaven" comes from the 17th century philosopher John Locke, who wrote of a responsibility to rebel, even use violence, to overthrow unjust rule. It's a paraphrase for trial by arms. Anthony Grafton, a historian at Princeton University, said in an interview, "The main point is that there's no appeal. There's no one else you can ask for help or a judgment." Yeah, that's the flag flying outside the vacation home of Alito. On January 6th, the Appeal to Heaven flag was prominent at the Washington Monument, where throngs gathered to hear President Trump deliver a speech contesting the election results, and later above the angry mob that surrounded the Capitol. The flag was visible above clashes with law enforcement on the building's West Terrace as rioters breached police lines underneath the scaffolding set up for President Biden's inauguration, and finally inside the building. By that day, scholars say the flag had become popular enough to sometimes be used by a few other groups, including militia members. But most often, they said it's tied directly to Mr. Sheets. This is the guy who's been really pushing this flag. I'm not going to get into it. It's on the NewYorkTimes.com. Just think of this as another flag, another, I call it rebellion, an appeal to heaven. It's a paraphrase for trial by arms. What did Rudy Giuliani say? Trial by combat, baby. That's what this guy's flying. And apparently,
now,
according to, if I just may, according to the Raw story, the ethics czar for George W. Bush, who helped Alito prepare for his Senate confirmation hearing, now apparently he's furious and wants him recused from any case involving January 6th.
Here's my question. How long until Alito blames it on Mrs. Alito?
Mrs. Alito, man. She's these women, man. I gotta tell you, these men better get their women in line.
Well, Mrs. Alito, or as he likes to call her when they're vacationing out at the Jersey Shore, Snooky.
Oh, terrible, man.
CJ, you get one last minute. No, you don't. Just kidding. Reggie's doing that for our entertainment, CJ. Just taunting you a little bit.
I am entertained. Hey, man, you had an opportunity. When the Devil's Advocate takes your call, bro, you got to be there, man.
Doesn't matter if you've been waiting 2 hours. 2 hours and 1 minute could be the proper amount of time. Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Hope you listen tomorrow. Hope we do it tomorrow. We'll do it tomorrow, right?
Yeah. Isn't it? I mean, it's a holiday weekend. So are we doing a show tomorrow? Let's do a show tomorrow.
Tomorrow's just Thursday.
All right. Oh,
it's Friday Eve. Yeah. We'll commit to Thursday.
We'll
see you on the radio, everyone. Thank you, Rich, for your hard work. Thank you, Dom, for whatever it is you do around here.